Actually, you can do that anytime. Still hit apply. Does it say selectmen? No, it's, okay, we didn't. Go back to CG. There's one, what does it say?
Selectmen,
Okay,
apply.
yeah. You can do that, I think, without stopping it, so if you ever have another, oh crap, I didn't do it, you can still, now go back and look at the, why did it say problem loading? Oh, where's the YouTube?
I don't know. I have it here, but not up here.
No, this, probably is all right, and it's probably on, you're probably online now. Yeah, you're on. You can start.
All set?
Yeah.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the meeting of the Weare Board of Selectmen, September 26th. Got a couple public hearings to address. We're a few minutes late, but again, where this is an off meeting, there'll be no public comment. Opening the meeting a few minutes late, the 7:09. Gonna open a public hearing to hear public testimony and comment regarding increases to the transfer station fee schedule. Recognize Director Knapp. Thank you.
Time for Ben. Thank you.
Anybody else like one? Yes.
Are you gonna do your bid opening first? Because your rates are based on.
Am I doing bid opening both same time, or is one before the other?
We doesn't.
Award the solid waste hauling and then update.
Okay, because the hauling had a little reflection on this case, there's questions, not big.
Okay, all right, whatever you want to do, it's your show.
Transfer station? That's in the schedule. Okay, thanks. One bid? Okay, got one? Yeah, one left. Sure. Huh. And I don't have any handouts for the hauling, however, I will hand out what I got. I do have handouts, I'm sorry. That's the official information. You guys pass around, look at it, and I suppose they'll get back to Naomi, so I don't look at it. This is just a handout.
Thank you.
I don't have anything for the audience, I apologize. So, we'll start with the hauling contract. It's not up until December. The reason I chose to send it out now is because our demolition rate went up at our vendor, and so then I need to put my rates up. And I anticipated an increase in the hauling, which would have meant I had to come back in December to you guys. So I just thought I'd put it out now. So this this hauling price won't be effective till, January 1.
Okay.
But that reflects my demolition price, so I don't have to do it again in a couple of months. It went out in all the legal areas, and the only one to put in was Sizemore, and I would recommend them. The municipal solid waste is $3.25 a trip. That is to Wheelabrator. Construction waste is $3.75 a trip. That goes to Naughton and Bradford. Scrap metal is $3.25 a trip. That typically goes to Schnitzer's. Goes through the NRA, but it always goes to Schnitzer's and Concord. Sometimes that scrap metal, that also per load is our aluminum cans that we haul roll-offs to. Once in a while I go to Harding Metal in Northwood, but not often.
Same price though?
Usually a little more there because there's always a wait time there, so this price reflects Schnitzer's and Concord.
Okay.
Loose paper is $5.75 a trip. Right now that goes to Wilmington, Mass. Their wait time, I put in there, I needed a wait time, it was $1.05 per hour, and then a fuel surcharge of $13.50 a trip. If, and I gave you guys the paperwork I need to explain that on. And then additional, and follow me for a minute, because we had to ask him, make sure, but additional 50 cents per 50 cents of fuel price above $5.50. So if it's $5.99, it stays that price. If it goes $6, it'll be another
50 cents.
You follow me?
Yeah.
It'd be $6.50?
So
No,
it goes in 50-cent increments?
right.
Okay.
Okay.
If it goes up 49 cents, we don't pay no more. If it
Okay.
goes up 50 cents, then we pay that 50 cents. The wait time is if they have to wait over an hour somewhere to dump their load, which happens periodically. And if, the fuel surcharge is if it's over $5.13 a gallon at the pump. It's $13.50 a trip. So,
Hey, Ben,
that's
can you just,
lots of different trips there, so they didn't specify, so that's what it's supposed to be.
so what is it up from?
I'm sorry?
So this is the new bid, the new numbers. What was the old number?
My current.
Yeah, or current. I mean, round numbers, 10%?
Yeah, I got that, yeah, hang on a minute. I did write that down. Somewhere I wrote it down, going over there, didn't I? We did talk about that. I don't have each number, we did talk about that. Construction waste went up 16%, because that's the next topic of discussion, so.
Okay, plus 16.
Yeah, I think, municipal waste is right at 300 right now,
Okay.
what we're paying.
All right. So
Probably
it's-
not even, don't quote me to the cent on that, but.
Okay.
So it's really the construction that's took the big jump.
They both did a little, wait time I think's 85 an hour now,
And now it's 80.
and now
okay.
it's 105.
It's not that there's a lot we can do about it anyway, right?
No,
We got one bidder.
loose paper's well over 500 now anyway, I believe, so it was pretty close across the board. And I knew that might be a question, I swore I brought that, but I didn't, so I apologize for that.
And the current vendor has been more than accommodating to us.
Well, that's what's great about them, they're there all the time, they know the schedule as good as we do, and the vendors are getting so picky now, you gotta be in Naughton's by 6 in the morning, because they got all the little dumpster guys, they don't want that tractor trailer in there, they, just on and on. They got, right now, 3 trucks going, they'll have 4 or 5 going pretty soon, so if one breaks down, it's not an issue, you know, so they're super good. So Matt, just to give them kudos, and I probably wouldn't have thought of it if you wouldn't have brought it up, but I would like to thank them anyway. Our demo trailer got full, and because of the holiday, they couldn't pull it. And we were gonna have a mess by the time they could pull it. And they loaned us their live floor for free. We didn't pay rent for the live floor until we filled it.
And that was a pretty fancy aluminum trailer.
It was, yeah, we
Yeah.
were very careful, we didn't pack it too much, so.
No.
But, yeah, he loaned it to us. We could've got by without it. I mean, we've stacked up demo before. It's not a big deal at all. But he's like, why don't I just take yours, bring it to my shop and drop it? And then first thing Monday morning, zip down there, I'll drop that one in place for Saturday. I'm like, well, you want that back Monday morning? He's like, no, I might as well fill it. We're going half a load. So, I mean, that kind of thing goes a long ways,
Yeah,
in my opinion.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that kind of relationship, absolutely.
So,
Okay. So we're thinking approximately 10% increase though, probably.
yeah, construction was 16.
Okay. But in general,
Construction was $30 a ton last time. So,
okay,
yeah, 10-15% on it.
okay.
Which isn't terrible considering fuel prices over and above what they were
Yeah.
last time we sent them out.
Fleet maintenance and
So.
everything else.
Cost of people.
Cost of people, yeah.
So I'd recommend Sizemore trucking and
Okay.
to,
Yeah, that's-
That's unrelated at the moment.
want this back, Naomi, probably?
Yeah, so, any conversation from the board, questions?
Not at this time.
All right, I'll move that we award the 2023, are they good for a year? Is that what that is?
2.
2 years? The 2023-2024 municipal hauling services awarded to Sizemore for the fee, for the schedule provided by the DPW director.
Effective.
Effective
January?
when the contract expires,
Yep.
December
January,
31st.
right?
Yep.
January 1,
January 1,
2023.
2023 to December 31, 2024.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Okay.
And the next would be our transfer station
Now we'll go back.
fees,
Yeah,
which is what sparked me to send out hauling bids.
yeah, all right. We're a little out of order, but that's okay. Like I said, had to get that out of the way first.
Right, yeah, sorry about that.
That's fine.
So what initiated this is we've been going to Naughton's in Bradford as far as what you take for demolition there and not getting random rates. They have been great to work with. We used to go to a different vendor, and if there was too much sheetrock, it wasn't the contracted rate. If there was too much PT, there was a contracted rate. If too much snow, there wasn't a contracted rate. So we'd charge $75 a ton and get charged $121 if they thought there's too much sheetrock. You know, so, and we charge by the yard, and it actually works very well, but it doesn't if we charge what we're supposed to get charged, and then they charge us different after it's delivered. So, so anyway, we went to Naughton's a few years ago. It's worked out okay, but they notified me that as of October 1st, their rates are gonna go up. So, we need to put our rates up. So, I'm only, out of this whole fee schedule, I'm only asking to increase the construction debris. We've always charged a $5 minimum, and that's just if someone has a handful of stuff, just have a minimum charge. That didn't go up. Wood and siding, we used to be at $35 a yard. I'm asking to go to $40 a yard. And asphalt shingles and sheetrock, we used to be at $85 a yard. I'm asking to go to $110 a yard. And since I started back there 20 years ago, we charged $5 for toilets, and I did the math on the average weight of a toilet, and so I'm asking to raise that to $7 a piece
Yep.
for toilets.
I asked this last time and I'll ask it again. Is this proactive enough for current times?
Yeah, yep,
Okay.
yep. Yeah, because their rate is good at least for this year
A year,
coming
okay.
up, so
Okay, all right.
it's not,
That's what I need to hear.
not supposed to go up in a month. That's why I really wanna get the hauling in there, and then I ain't gonna come back and talk to you guys for another year about the construction increases.
None of the other prices on this sheet are changing.
No.
Okay.
No. Huh?
Wait, I'm,
The mattresses go
Oh,
up?
yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry, yeah, because it goes in the demo. So, the mattresses were 15, in Box Springs, I'm asking to go to 16.
Is that enough?
I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah.
Hey, Ben, just something that the math didn't work out, the last update that we got from Beth, on the fluorescent tubes.
Mhm.
The revenue, the money charged,
Mhm.
and then the vendor fee to dispose of them, there was a discrepancy. You might just get a chance, when you get a chance, look at it, all right?
Okay, yep.
Yeah, I don't know if it was just because of the way the month lapped, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which can happen. I never got to ask the question, I didn't ask the question because it wasn't,
Okay,
but yeah, when you get a chance, just look at that one
okay.
for the future.
Okay.
I wrote on top of my paper, the effective date, we need that. I wrote 10/4 because that's Tuesday morning, but 10/1, whatever you guys want to pick for a date, we need a date on there.
Okay?
Does the board have any questions for Director Knapp?
No, just that this program, we initiated May 2nd, this has been working out.
Yes, very well, yep.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and I want to put out there that I think someday we're gonna get scales, right? Hopefully. But we've charged by the yard for a very long time, and we do well. I hear many towns say I paid for my scales in a year. I don't believe it, and you must have been a terrible estimator, because we have a revolving fund, and if I didn't have enough money to pay for that trailer load of demo, Beth would be like, listen, boys, we need to do something different. So we are covering our costs this way. Someday I want a set of scales, but it's not, we're doing fine. We're covering our costs, and that's all we're supposed to do is cover our costs of them.
That's the objective.
That's the objective, so.
Just to clarify, the $5 minimum only applies to construction debris. Is that correct?
That's right.
Okay.
And there's sometimes, a little old lady bring in a half of a wooden chair and just throw it in there, we're not huge sticklers, but there's certain things, it's just
You
like,
bring a whole-
it's not worth measuring, I had someone bring in a fiberglass greenhouse, and they had all the panels stacked up, and it was about that thick, and it was like that wide, and I charged her $5, it weighed nothing, so.
All right, if the board has no questions of Director Knapp and he's satisfied, we'll open the floor for public comment.
Frank Campana, I guess I went in one year and out the other. All the prices, the rest of the prices are the same?
Yeah, it's only the construction debris and
And
the
the
bulky
bottom.
items at the bottom. Yep.
Well, only the mattress at the bottom. He didn't
Mattresses, excuse
specify-
me, mattresses only.
That I got, yeah.
Okay. Any other public comment on this? Okay, there being none, we will close the public hearing on the new transfer station schedule. Does the board have any other conversation you'd like to have? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we go to the new increases as of October 1st for the transfer station as discussed.
All right, for the bulky items and the construction debris.
Yeah.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moving second, and all in favor? Yes. Okay.
Can these new fees be posted on the website this week, Naomi?
Got a couple minutes.
Yeah,
So
do we,
could do some in between.
do we have, you can't do your update in 5 minutes, right? I didn't think so.
You could start it.
We'll just do the manifest, it's right here,
Okay.
so. Vote to order the treasurer to sign payroll and accounts payables checks dated September 29th, 2022, is including the following manifest. A payroll manifest of $90,217.30 for weekly, monthly, and quarterly payroll. Accounts payable of $71,642.65 for a total of $161,859.95. Is there a second?
Second.
Move and seconded. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
That killed a minute.
That killed 30 seconds. Any correspondence, other business we can discuss within a few minutes? Well, we could. The board would like to take a moment to thank all of the people who attended the vote on the 13th, is that the date? Yeah. And the dedicated workers who were there, volunteers and anybody that was being paid, but again, it does not go off without the help, and we definitely greatly appreciate that, so.
Yeah.
And then there was one other thing, Sherry had brought up, just to, again, there was a ceremony at, Granite State Telephone for the Hometown Hero Award. We alternate between the town of Chester and the town of Weare. Granite State Telephone has a location in each, and this year's Hometown Hero, Award went to, Doug Alwine, who is our, cable man. He does all the videos, does all the YouTube, stuff like that, so, well-deserved, and thank you, Doug. And that cut up another 2 minutes. So,
Yeah, and down to 3 minutes.
yeah,
Well, he could start, and you could just stop.
yeah, and if you get 2 minutes worth of one topic,
Yeah, that's more than 2 minutes.
that's more than 2 minutes, trust me, yeah.
Yeah, I think I'd probably save the bridge till after, so, I don't know. What time you gotta start? 7:30?
7:30,
Yeah, I don't really have much till.
okay.
You just can cut me off the middle. I don't think.
I don't blame you, I don't wanna cut you off either. But you know what we did forget? Pledge of Allegiance.
I know. I noted it.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So I knew we were gonna have a spare minute, that's why I figured we'd do it there.
That's what I was pointing to.
Oh, yeah. Well, I went to check it off, and we didn't even do it. Fine. Okay, good, good, that's good. All right. We're gonna run with it. We're gonna run with it. All right, gonna open another public hearing at 7:30, which is very close, to hold a hearing pursuant to RSA 3195B relative to the acceptance of unanticipated revenue in excess of $10,000 for the following accounts. An additional highway block grant of $239,376.07, and an additional municipal bridge aid grant of $326,966. Recognize DPW Director Knapp. Or Beth.
It's Beth.
All right,
Yeah.
well, just the two topics, I was like, oh, Benji may know something, but we'll recognize Ms. Rose.
As you're aware, State Representative Leah Cushman was in probably about a month ago, and she updated you on the current Senate bills, one of them being SB 401, which is the additional highway block grant and the municipal bridge aid. So we have received the highway block grant funds already. We have not received the municipal bridge aid money yet, but tonight we're just here to accept those. It's unanticipated revenue. We cannot allocate it to a capital reserve fund. It just goes to the unanticipated revenue, but it's committed. It's only for these projects. It's
Right.
only, you can't offset the budget.
It comes with strings attached.
Yes, it does.
And it says you can only use it for X, Y, Z.
Correct.
Right,
All right?
okay, so,
So that's
Now-
it. Go ahead and.
correct me if I'm wrong, when and how does it go to, how are the mechanics to get it to the said funds, proper funds, or can you not?
It's just the way I account for it
Okay.
separately.
Okay.
It's in the general fund, under unanticipated revenue for this year. Next year, we move it from the unreserved fund balance to committed fund balance.
Okay,
All right, and that's where we can take it from.
Okay.
For those projects.
the board have any questions for Beth
No,
regarding these?
no, fully anticipated them coming.
Huh?
We knew they were coming.
We knew they were coming, just didn't know what the exact dollars and cents were, and now we do, so. All right, the board have any comments, concerns, questions?
No, not at all.
I will open the floor for public comment regarding these two.
Tom Flaherty, Sunrise Lane. Can I ask questions, or is it just comment?
No, you can ask questions.
Ask questions.
We may not have the answers, but you can ask questions.
Okay. Not to the dollar, but relatively, how is this different from money we've received last year, or the last time we received unanticipated funds?
So every year, the state gives out 280 or whatever it is written on the warrant article as far as the block grant.
Yep.
This was funded, I forget exactly the mechanics of it, but it's an off deposit.
Is it above and beyond the amount from the warrant article?
Yes.
It's in addition to?
Yes.
Not, okay, okay,
That's correct, in both accounts.
okay. And do we typically allocate it to, the item that it is, or do we sometimes give it back, leave it in the general fund to offset taxes?
So because of the way these came in, they have to be used for intended purposes. They cannot be used to offset.
So there's only one thing you
They
you
give you-
basically have to spend?
Exactly. This has to go to roads, this has to go to bridges.
Okay.
In one shape or form,
Okay.
so.
And is there already a plan drafted up for what to do with the extra funds?
Speaking as one board member, I'm sure that bridge aid is probably dedicated
River Road.
in wholly to the River
River
Road aspect. The bridge block grant, I'd have to refer to the DPW director to come up with a plan. I'm sure it's just to further his already plan that he has in place for the warrant article, block grant, and taxation. I'm sure it's just gonna further that.
All right. And that money has to be spent in the next year? It can't be held over for future years?
I don't,
For that
is there a timeline on it? There's no timeline.
So it
yeah.
can be allocated in another year for another bridge if something comes up or whatever?
Right.
Okay.
But, I mean, the current plan, and that could change with the DPW update, is that River Road Bridge.
Okay. So do you guys ask DPW to come back to you with information about how they plan to use that?
Yeah, we can.
Do you typically do that, or?
I mean, he has his long-range plan that he
Yeah.
always provides,
Right.
and then when he provides the warrant article of CIP, he has a list of roads that he wants to either top coat or completely rebuild, et cetera.
So this could affect his CIP request coming up the next time, if he doesn't already use it?
Correct.
Yeah.
It could, but again, probably when it comes down to dollars and cents, and again, I'm speaking as one board member, I don't believe that his warrant article would change.
Right, okay. You know-
Because we have so many roads that are still in dire need of
Yeah, yeah.
help.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, my main question was just accountability, like, it's gonna get spent, but how does it change his existing plans? I would be curious as a selectman to know that personally, but,
It may just shorten the longevity,
Right.
that's all, so.
okay, thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Richard, good evening. I'm not quite sure I understand how this can be allocated. The warrant article this year was for $575,000. And part of the highway block grant. And I believe that the agenda, not the agenda, but the public notice said that the money that we're receiving is for the highway block grant. So the original article called for X amount of dollars coming from, estimated amount of dollars coming from the state, which is about 280,000. It's just shy of 1,000, 279,000, I believe, somewhere around there that we received in. And the balance was going to be raised through taxation. So why can't this money that we're receiving, the additional highway block grant money, why can't it be applied to that article to offset the amount that has to be raised through taxation?
I mean, I'm thinking, and maybe I'm wrong, but I'm thinking it probably could be for fiscal year '23. Definitely not, I wouldn't be paving this time of year, at this point in time, but it could be, but I would think that would put us, that would cause a ripple. It would cause a temporary relief for the tax-aided money for that warrant article for 1 year, and then next year we'd go back again for the same amount. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I don't like the answer, but
Okay.
what's wrong with that one-time allocation to offset taxes in '23?
Didn't say anything wrong with it. I'm just
I don't see what the
answering
ripple
question.
effect is. Because every year, the the people in this town have always approved that highway block grant, knowing that a certain amount is gonna be raised through taxation. So, you give us a kind of a free year where the amount that's gonna be raised by taxation is gonna be significantly less. Probably in the 57, this year would have been $57,000 instead of raising and appropriating the $294,000. That's a significant reduction in our obligation that is covered through taxation. So why can't you commit to using that money?
Now, while I completely understand exactly what you're saying, and I'm just speaking as one board member, the rest of the board can speak. I'm speaking as one board member and a resident thinking the DPW director has stood there multiple times at that podium and said how dire need these roads are to be fixed. Am I not wrong? He has. And my thought is,
So
well,
we had the bond. I mean, the bond helped.
the bond did help
Right.
keep the good roads good.
Yeah.
But we still have a whole handful, and I'm sure he'd agree, a whole handful of roads that are not good and still need to be fixed. And at the current rate that we were moving forward, before the $2 million bond, which did help, we're still behind the eight ball.
I understand, but you're applying it, you're applying the money differently. In one case, you're saying, well, we're gonna have a hit next year, we're gonna ask for more because we got more. So next year's bond, highway block grant, maybe it's gonna be $800,000. If you add this into that. In the following year, it's gonna be back down to 500,000.
Right.
So what's the difference between reducing the taxable income for the taxpayers for once, next year, and then having it back where it would normally be the following year? What you're doing is you're using that money for supposed needs, which they probably are there, but you could also use it for tax relief for people.
Yeah, Dick, could I interrupt just for a second? You make a really
As long
good.
as Mr. Chairman,
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's fine.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sorry to.
No, go ahead.
But you make a good point. I think it's a reasonable point, actually, and one that should be taken into consideration. I don't think we're gonna be able to give you the answer that you want tonight, relative to saying, as we look at it in the future of 2023, that we're gonna reduce by $239,000 what we're gonna be asking for because we received this block grant. But it definitely should be considered.
well, the purpose of public hearing is to provide us with information, ask questions.
Yeah.
You don't know what you're gonna do with the money.
No, well, of course, I mean, it's, right now, it's gonna be added, this money, we've received the block grant for the highway, Beth?
What was that?
We have received the money for this, yeah. So this is put into that fund as of now, but,
Well,
Well-
no. It's in the general fund.
right,
Right. It's
But
not,
it's in
it's
the
not in that
bank.
capital reserve.
It's in the
Right. We possess it, yes.
right.
So, but you don't know how you're gonna use that money.
Currently, I couldn't tell you, no.
Well, early, I mean, you should know. We're just receiving the money and you're gonna put it somewhere and we'll let you know, we won't even let you know what we're gonna do with it later on. Because you get the money.
Well, it has to be used for,
Well, we know what it
highway.
has to be used for, obviously, but you could use it whenever you want it, right? You don't have to have a public hearing to use that money. The
just
board can
receive
just say, yeah, well, here's $200,000, Benji, go do whatever you want. I'm not saying it wouldn't get used appropriately, but you have no further action. We have no further input.
Because we haven't discussed it yet.
Well, when you do discuss it, what opportunity do we have? To say, yeah, well, that's a great idea, no, it isn't, don't you care?
Of course, we care. But email us, you can call us, you can public comment.
But you're not gonna have a public hearing. You're not required to have a public hearing to expend that money.
That's correct.
Well, it's unfortunate, you're having a public hearing, you can't tell us how you're gonna use that money. It really is. You should have already had discussions and then have a public hearing at some point in time to say, and this is how we're gonna allocate it. But, then we'd have some input at the public hearing, but now you're just accepting the money, you're gonna throw it in some the general fund, which you have access to, and use it whenever you want to for the purpose described. So we don't have any input after this. So great, take the money, do whatever you want with it. But obviously, it doesn't sound like you're willing to offset the amount required to be raised through taxation, which is unfortunate.
I only speak for myself. I don't speak for the board.
Well, any past indication would indicate that the taxpayer is probably not your primary concern. But I would hope the board would consider using this money as an offset for the total appropriation. You can't do it this year, but you could do it next year. You claim you can't do it this year. Right? You can't use that money this year?
Well, I mean, we probably could, but I'm pretty sure that Benji's wrapping up his projects. You don't want to be paving when it's frozen ground.
But the money is here now. You have the money. You could use that to offset the amount appropriated through taxation for the highway block grant and save the taxpayers $200,000. So instead of raising $294,000, you're raising $60,000, which would reduce the taxes for this year.
But am I wrong in saying we've already appropriated that money and spent it?
Yes, we spent it.
We spent it.
Spent what? What did you
The
spend?
warrant article. The warrant article that was appropriated for in
The
2022, March.
$500,000.
Correct, has
Well,
already
I
been
don't-
spent.
It's already been spent, right. But you haven't established what the tax rate is for that article. And if you have revenue coming in to offset the amount appropriated, you're not changing the amount you spent. You can't do that anyway, really. You spend under it, I guess. But you could offset the amount required to be raised through taxation to reduce the taxes for this next tax bill, in my opinion. But if you can't, then you could do it the following year.
2023.
And I would hope that the board would consider maybe giving some of this money back by offsetting the amount that has to be raised through taxation. It's roughly the same amount that would be raised through taxation if the amount appropriated or requested next year is about $500 and something thousand.
Understood.
Right? So you got the block grant coming in next year, maybe 280, plus you get 70 or whatever that amount is, 293. This year, those two combined would provide you all the money you need without having to raise taxes. I hope the board would consider that. Thanks.
Just, so SB 401, according to the Municipal Association, it says SB 401 will provide funding with restricted uses, meaning that it may be used to supplement, not supplant, local budgets. The supplement, not supplant provision requires that these funds must add to and not replace local budgeted funds when providing services that repair, maintain, and construct municipal bridges, repair and maintain Class 4 and 5 roads, or acquire equipment necessary to maintain Class 4 and 5 roads. So that's what you can do with it.
Right.
It's made to be add, not
Please.
not replace.
Place.
And you did read municipal bridge.
I did.
Yeah.
Okay.
Frank, you want to come up? You want to come up? Oh, I thought you were prepared to come up.
I am.
Okay, yeah, come on up.
I didn't want to interrupt, Naomi,
okay.
but I probably interrupted you guys with my conversation back here. I was going to ask, Naomi answered one of my questions, I guess. Certainly the money can be used for buying equipment. Right, Naomi, is that
What's this?
one? So you could graciously give Benji at least pretty much one new truck with that, as what happened last year, or the current year we're in. I still don't know where the extra $260,000 came from. So it could be spent for that, to be sure, and it wouldn't come out of my pocket. I certainly agree with something for tax relief. You had the opportunity last year, a couple of items to use for tax, instead of purchasing something, to give for tax relief. But what I want to question you is, and I understand you probably don't have the information in front of you, and I may not quite explain it accurately, but right now, there's a balance in the the account balances of a little over $400,000 in, actually, road maintenance, oh, right. There's $300,000 in there. So I did my math wrong, but it looks like Benji, let's see, 300, 300. I probably shouldn't stand up here. 300 out of 575. So it looks like Benji has spent out of the 575 article for last year. Looks like he spent approximately $270,000, I guess, which leaves the 300, I'm using round numbers, which leaves $300,000 balance. So my concern is with this windfall that you folks will get, I doubt very much the taxpayers will see any of it. As the previous speaker had said, and I'm not quite sure if it, you said supplement.
Supplement and then SUPPLANT.
A supplant, okay, supplant.
I tried to make the distinction.
So I guess it's probably, my comment is kind of infringing on that word supplant. That apply this additional amount of money to offset whatever Benji decides he needs. If he needs 575, he's probably gonna go up. I think he's increasing it a little bit every year. So apply that money totally to offset whatever he determines the bottom line of that article is. And then the balance, if there is a, excuse me, if there is a balance, then that should be raised by the taxpayers. If not, the 239, might cover it. What I did, again, not to make it all confusing, what I did, I used last year's numbers. The article was for 575,000. The state aid, according to the article, and I don't know what the state aid ended up being for this year, but I used what the article was. It was 280,000. Again, anticipated, I don't know what it was, so I was using those numbers. So that left a balance of 294 to be raised by taxation. And what I did, that 294, I applied this money now, if that could be applied to a similar article, using similar numbers, and I know the numbers will, not be too similar. That left a $65,000 balance, okay, to be raised by taxpayers. And I think that's what the previous speaker was speaking to, is use this money to help offset that article and make the tax impact to the taxpayers less, if any. I agree with the last speaker too, I read in the paper quite a number of times that I guess I point to Concord. They have public hearings many times on many subjects, and it's not just one time on each subject. They ask for input. So I think you'd certainly be doing someone like me a disservice when you start discussing what you're going to do with this money. I understand you don't know tonight, and that's certainly acceptable. But, as things develop, I look at the communication issues, the ARPA money and all that. You've had at least a couple of different public hearings on that money with public input. Whether you've heeded the public input or not, that would remain to be seen. But I would suggest, as you formulate what you're going to do with this money, to, be courteous to the public and ask for their input at that time.
Thank you. Any other comment on the
If you don't know the answer, fine, but I'd like to know what the answer is. Can you use this to supplement or supplant the amount of money that's being raised through taxation for next year's highway block grant?
We will find out.
Thank you.
Any other discussion?
So just to answer a couple, I guess they were questions. There's still money left over in this year's fund. We have not paved High Rock Road yet. That's the base coat, that's 2 inches thick, so look about 1,600 tons asphalt there, which will be neighborhood of probably 150,000, and we gotta shoulder all the roads. So that 300 that's left in there is not gonna be 300 at the end. We haven't discussed what the warrant article's gonna be. This money wouldn't necessarily be to supplement anything, although I know what your question was. It would be, I guess I can ask the voters for whatever amount we want, and you guys can vote on it, but I understand what you say, well, I take that money and knock it off. You know, it was, I believe, given to towns to give towns a boost. We went backwards this year in paving and road work because oil prices went so high. We did less this year. CIP is coming up in the next couple of weeks, and then it goes to you guys, and it goes to the finance before it ever goes to the voters, so I think that'll be hashed out. My intentions, to be right honest, was I was gonna ask for the same road money I always ask for and hope to have this as a boost to do more roads, because I got a lot of roads that need to be reconstructed still. And I wanna stay with my preservation method. We didn't do much preservation this year because of asphalt prices being so high. I didn't actually even read that line, and it could be put towards equipment, so maybe, you know, I'm gonna ask for a plow truck, maybe that's what we do. My initial thought was would be an addition, but this is the first time it has come to conversation, and
Yeah.
still gotta go to CIP, you guys finance, and then the voters, so.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We can hash it out, but I wanted to be transparent and tell you guys what my thoughts was, that's all. And tell you why there's that much money left in the road construction fund, because I'm not done yet, so.
Thank you, Benji. Anybody else?
I just want to make clear what Benji said. I wasn't trying to indicate that that $400,000, you know, he's all done for the year. So I just want you to
No, I know,
understand.
I know. I just wanna make sure
I
I was
didn't make
clear,
that
that's all.
clear, so,
No, I haven't given an update, so I didn't know if everybody knew I wasn't done yet.
okay, thank you. Thank you
Very
again.
good. Thank you. Any comments? We'll close the public hearing. $7:54. Any comments from the board? We have to move to accept it, right? Okay. All right. I'll move that we accept the funds from the state for the additional highway block grant of $239,376.07, and additional municipal bridge aid of $326,966. Is there a second?
Second.
Move and second. All in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
I'm just trying to see if my water, when was the bridge money discussed?
That was part of this. I talked about that, yes. Yeah, I mentioned that right at the beginning. It was part of it. So, all right. So we will go to, I believe that we moved Romeo to next meeting, correct?
Yeah,
Yes.
you're still waiting on a couple conservation members
Okay.
to make a quorum.
Okay.
If you let Benji finish his update.
Yeah. Come on up. Now we got time.
Try to make it quick, I guess. I haven't seen you guys in a while, so, since the bridge money's just discussed, let's talk about that for a minute. I talked to Tom Marshall today, as a matter of fact, and our surveying process is done for the bridge. We,
For the temporary bridge.
no, for the overall project.
Oh, okay.
The question is now, that this I kinda kinda need an answer from you guys here sooner than later, but I talked to Tom for 2 hours today. We don't believe we need wetland permits for the temporary bridge. We do own the land, thankfully, that was part of the surveying to make sure, because the property line's close, right? We might need a shoreland permit. But we need to kinda decide if we're gonna hopefully wait for state aid, which, as far as, correct me if I'm wrong, as far as we understood, as soon as it would be 2027. That would be switching for Lowell Road, unless we really bent somebody's arm and,
So leave it closed until 27?
no. But is that what you understood, is Lowell Road is out till 2027, right?
I thought it was 26, but yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
it's 12 months.
So that would be as soon as we could switch River Road for Lowell Road into bridge aid, right? Is it, I just wanna make sure I understood it, that's all. And when they told us, when we talked to them about this, they told us, one guy says, well, my commissioner told me that we could switch it if it was in-kind money. Well, we all know Lowell Road culvert's not in-kind money, it's River Road. So I believe myself and Naomi talking to her, I'm not confident they're gonna switch Lowell Road for River Road. I don't think they're gonna. Did you get that feeling? I don't think so. And we can't get nobody to say yes or no, so we need to not wait till 2026 or 7. So the couple options on the table would to be go ahead with the temporary bridge and wait till the Lowell Road project and hope they'll swap. And if they don't, wait till whenever the hell they decide they're gonna put River Road on there. Or just fix River Road Bridge out of pocket. And I think I kinda said that in a brief conversation with you guys earlier this year, that I thought that might be the way to go. Because when you use the state aid money, I found this much out, you have to do 100% replacement, right? It'd be a completely different bridge. The abutments be tore out, the road would be tore back for hundreds of feet. It'd be over a $2 million project for sure. Our 20% of $2 million, 400 grand, right? So, I think we could fix that for 500,000-600,000. So if we put a temporary bridge in for 300, waited 5 years, put 400 up, which 5 years from now will be 500, you know, we're pushing $1 million out of our pocket, where if we just go now to fix that bridge out, fix it right, don't patch it, fix it right, and I don't have them plans tonight, but, you know, I'm not saying weld patches on the beams like we did last time. I mean, take out the bad pieces, put in new ones, and have a 50-year bridge put back. I think that's the way to go. But we need to know what way you guys want to go so we can get the engineers rolling in the right direction. Tom has worked his own time out of his own pocket, so to speak, and as long as he can. I mean, his information and stuff back and forth to us has been for free so far.
I'm not comfortable waiting for the state to keep jerking us around on it.
Well, exactly. I think we got, you know, we had a for a better term, gentleman's agreement, and next thing you know, here we are when we need to put our feet to the fire, and we get turned,
So this is the one other thing then, is we need to decide, do we want a temporary bridge or no temporary bridge? He doesn't feel that anybody's gonna hit the ground till spring, and that really sucks.
Right. Any crews.
Doesn't mean that we can't try, but he didn't have that feeling. Even the temporary bridge, he didn't think anybody put that in till spring. Doesn't mean it won't happen.
And the cost
So
of
we
the
need-
temporary bridge again was what?
Huh?
The cost of the temporary bridge?
Well, we don't have no exacts, but at least 300.
And they think that there's a potential that you could resell it afterwards, just a potential.
If we bought it, and we could rent one, and so there's a bunch of options on that. I think we're leaning away from, the bridge aid. I guess, is that my number one question? And I
That's-
hate to put you guys' feet in the fire tonight, because we haven't had a conversation in a while, but I need to get the engineer going in the right direction, what we're gonna do. Then the question after that is, because he will help us send out a bid proposal to fix the bridge. If we could wait till spring and I don't wanna wait till spring, but if we're gonna wait till spring anyway, I guess it's not really if we can, if we're gonna. Can we withstand that bridge being down 3 months and reroute traffic, and never mind the temporary bridge for 300 grand or whatever it might be?
My personal feeling is if the thing collapses, you're gonna have to do it anyway.
Yeah, I agree, John.
Right now, trucks, school buses, and everything else is already rerouted.
Diverted, right.
It would just be rerouting car traffic. I would, after talking with him some more today, would be more apt to let him write up a bid proposal
No.
that way, and never mind the temporary, because if the work's not gonna get done till spring, that means the temporary just gets my trucks and other trucks over the river, which is very, very important. If it could be put in tomorrow, it'd be a different conversation I'd be
But if
having.
we're-
But if
the
it's
timeline's
till
the same.
springtime anyway, and they can fix the other bridge in springtime, we've went this many months, if we could go 3 more, but no traffic on it, we'd save that 300, even if we could resell the bridge for 100 after, or whatever, half of it, we could just move things along. There's still a lot of unknowns, we gotta know. I'm hoping we get away with not doing wetland. Wetland permitting is gonna be really expensive and really long, he told me. Hoping working over the river and not disturbing the dirt, not disturbing the abutments, get away from the wetlands. But the engineer didn't have them answers, so I certainly don't.
I think it's
But I
temporary
need to
bridge.
know if you guys, the biggest question is if you want to wait for bridge aid, and if you can stand having the bridge closed 3 to 4 months without temporary. I'm torn on that, but if I can't get my plow trucks across it this winter and the gravel trucks across it this winter anyway, I was hoping to get that bridge in November and then
But that's
having
the
truck
one that's gonna
traffic
happen.
this winter, but it ain't looking good. Not saying it's impossible, we can still go that way. Just gotta let the engineer know what way we're going.
Right. Hey, Ben, is it possible for you to, give us a little written summary, just those, like you laid out 3 different options or whatever, and you mentioned a budget number real quick that you thought about $500,000, you can fix the bridge. You know, where that number's coming from? Is that
It
the,
just come in conversation from the gentleman that's helping us. There's no quotes out, so I hate to
Yeah.
say that in
Well, I mean, what
public,
you
but
can
I
do
need to
is-
give you guys an
yeah.
update, and it's a public meeting, so.
sure, of course. But if you want to do that, could you shoot us an email
Yeah.
in the next 24 hours and just put a budget number? You know, again, don't be, none of the numbers have to be firm
Well-
with those dates. And what we can do is then have a chance to kind of mull this over, bring you back, maybe in a non-public, and just ask you some questions, and then get to.
No, that would have to be in a public
That would
meeting.
be, that would be
Excuse me,
public,
then.
that'd be public, yeah.
Sorry. But
We're meeting
a
next
working
week.
session of some sort.
We're meeting next week. Well, I guess, but
Yep.
Ben's looking for a consensus on our direction, and my direction has been since you mentioned it, is repair what we have out of pocket, no temporary bridge. Just take it for the 3 months. It is what it is. Like you said, we're almost past the point, guaranteed past the point of trying to get something in before winter.
When I first brought this to you, and I pushed the temporary bridge, it's because I was really hoping to get the temporary bridge in
Right.
now
Yeah.
and fix this one in the spring.
Yeah.
Right.
He told me today, he says it's not impossible, but he says, I don't know who's gonna do it now.
I don't think we can afford to
If
wait
we're
the
not
4
gonna,
years
and
for the state.
it's gonna be relatively close to the same money in the end, whether we wait for state or not, and I
Right.
don't think the state's gonna cover it.
No,
I just don't.
I don't wanna roll the dice on
So
4 years.
so we'll fix it, we have the money.
It won't
This
last 4
bridge,
years.
No, I
this
don't.
unexpected bridge money we got was a big boost, that puts us up to over 700. If we don't put in a $200,000 or $300,000 temporary bridge,
Yeah.
at 700 should dang near do it.
Right.
And,
If
and
we-
again, it's not welding patches like we did last time.
No, it's
It'd be-
complete
They don't have
deck replacement.
they don't have the plan, there's many different options, which we'll have to look at and discuss, but it will be a permanent fix, so to speak. It'll be, it
I think
won't
it's a
be,
poor use of taxpayers' money to buy a temporary bridge and hope we can resell it.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm against it.
So I think probably rather than, somewhat what Kevin was saying, be more pointed to replacing that deck, no temporary bridge. Let's put all the money we have. And if it comes back with a quote, we're right in prime season where if we have to go to the taxpayers for a little bit of supplemental, we can. We're right at that time.
So the consensus, and this is what Tom really asked for, the consensus is to not wait for the state aid.
Correct.
Correct.
Yeah, I think
That's
that-
what I suggested, and that's what he said he needed to know so we
Yeah.
can move forward.
Correct.
And he can write it, he can then start looking into what permits we need to fix the bridge, and if, help us drop a proposal to send out.
Yes.
I think the general consensus is, and I think has been right along, been up, for me anyway, is the temporary bridge is, it's a Band-Aid that was just gonna cost us money that,
We're never gonna get back,
yeah.
Okay,
so.
okay.
Okay,
Alright.
I mean, I got other stuff, but if you want these, you get a room full of people, I'm here till the end anyway, it's up to you guys.
I would, he's gonna stay with us. If
All right.
We've got,
Yep,
the
I don't
rest,
mind.
I think, of the room is for the,
Yeah, Highland.
did Andy
Highland
go
Farm.
up? Highland Farm. So just
We
to
got
let,
3, right? You guys got 3.
no, they need 4. But
Right.
hold on, Andy's on his way.
Oh, he is?
So you've got Ray, Steve, Mike, and Andy.
Okay,
John's gone to bed, so you aren't getting him on the phone.
okay.
So-
Alright, do we wanna just wait for, is Andy here? Door just opened.
Coming.
Nope.
Not him?
He's on his way, but,
Do you wanna
Probably the
continue with
parking lot
Benji
was
then, until Andy gets
well,
here?
Andy's on his way. He said that a couple minutes ago.
Maybe.
I would like to just, Benji's staying with us till the end. that's
Right, right, no, I understand that, but
all.
I don't wanna start without Andy here.
That was
how are we
voice?
gonna move it forward? How are we gonna move it forward?
Oh, I don't know, not yet.
Probably can't find a parking spot, right?
Yeah, it's out back, it's fine.
Andy's here.
Andy's
All
here.
right, there we
Man of
go.
the hour, just who we're waiting for. Yeah, no,
Do you want, do you wanna share the table, or do you wanna do?
it's up, to yeah, we can probably just share the table, I think.
Yep. I'll make room for somebody.
Alright.
Somebody can sit here. Somebody sit beside me. The one
Just
slide
for
over.
clarification, Kevin, you're gonna recuse yourself
Yeah, I'm gonna be sitting in the audience as I would be,
So
or
we're
would
gonna
have
say 4
been,
chairs.
as a civilian.
when you had the conservation meeting.
One, 2, 3, just one more chair. Yep, one more chair. I'm just gonna. Just watch. Let me give it enough. He's gonna, there's one here, one there, and 2 there. I go downstairs, I'll be right back.
We'll wait for you.
Want this chair, Andy? I don't care. Whatever you want.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
We need one more? We got one there? I'll push you down, try to stay in the corner. Just on the,
Take a seat. Come on down, I don't bite.
Mess up somebody's chair elevation here.
uh-oh.
Riding low.
A lot of truck drivers I know, are on the floor. Just waiting for Naomi to come back for me to take her.
Makes good sense.
Excuse me, those are mine.
Oh, sorry, I thought that was our email we got.
Yeah, no worries.
Only took 2.5 years to finally get my name right on the, on my mailings.
What, your last
You
name?
finally got it?
No, they actually just put my name on there finally.
Oh,
I used to be a former selectman all the time.
really? Wow.
I got the front page letter, but then I took the wrong paperwork, and I don't have my, but I already reviewed everything. Did you? I looked them over really close.
If Naomi's got copies. So Ricky, are there handouts for this, or
I don't know yet. I think we're gonna have to recognize Tom for that.
are there handouts for this?
Yep,
one?
right there.
Okay.
I sent it all to you guys in email. There's, whoops, gotcha.
Nice shot.
Take some and hand some down. If you want the bigger plans, you want some? Anyone have a bigger one? Okay. Let the bigger ones head down there. Anyone else need? Do you know that?
We all set?
I am.
All right, I will call to order the special meeting of the Weare Conservation Commission, September 26th, 2022 at 8:12. And this is for the purpose of considering and hearing about the Highland Farms and Forest acquisition work, tax map 102, lots 31, 32. I'm Andy Fulton, Chair of the Conservation Commission. Tonight we have Mike Camacho to my right, Steve Nager, and Ray LeMay to my left. That's 4 out of our 6 members, so we have a quorum tonight.
Very good. All right. And obviously, Selectman Cahill has abstained from this, as he is in a butter. And we have the 3 members of the Board of Selectmen here, Chairman Hippler, Selectman Burdick, and Selectman Van. So, recognize, I believe it's gonna be, who? Tom, yourself? Good?
A little bit of everybody.
Yeah, everybody's in the room, so.
Good evening. I'll be brief. I just wanted to introduce myself to this group. My name is Cooley Arroyo. I'm an attorney from Cleveland Waters and Bass and Concord, representing Highland Farms and Forest acquisitions in this matter. We've been working with them on the permitting process, which has gotten a little complicated in recent months, but I am joined by my client tonight, Rick Kaiser, and his wetland scientist, Tom Carr, with the hope of answering all of your questions and finally getting this process to the finish line. It's our objective to leave here tonight with a clear understanding of what remains to be done and what boxes still need to be checked to get this permitting process to its logical and necessary conclusion. I think this group knows that Highland Farms has been at multiple meetings and has been very responsive to the town's questions. And we're here to answer your questions and get this resolved. So we look forward to hearing from you and getting that clarity to hopefully get this over the final finish line and to where it needs to be. And I appreciate Mr. Cahill recusing himself from these proceedings. So without much further ado, Mr. Carr and Mr. Kaiser will take it from here. But I'm here to
Very
answer
good.
any questions you may have as well.
Okay, thank you.
So, it sounds like it's a little backwards tonight. I assumed I was gonna be speaking to the Selectmen Board first, okay? Only to update from last week's meeting and basically go over some of the requirements that you guys had given me to move forward. So in other words, last week, we asked for a vote from the Selectmen Board, and there was 3 things that you guys, the board had said, we can't move on until these things are taken care of. And one of them was the condition from the ZBA, and one of them was I needed to get a form from the town. I believe Naomi's finally got one together from, I don't know if it's the town attorneys or whatever, but do you guys remember that from last week, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So, you have one, right?
Yeah, can I just, it's my understanding we invited them so they could talk about their plan, and then we have the finish line. Conservation and us, we invited so that we could get on and move on. So there's gonna be some, I would say, from what she just spoke, there's gonna be some conditions precedent, and there'll be some conditions subsequent as part of leaving here tonight, so that we're all on the same page. Is that?
That sounds legit.
And the goal of the Conservation Commission is just to be our small part,
Yes.
have that wrapped up tonight.
Right.
So that we can,
check the
we
box.
can be satisfied, we can do what we need to do on our piece of this project.
Right. in that part of the list, the list is not finalized as we spoke of, but to check off that box of the list, to get you closer to that goal.
Again, we agreed that I've been through that process one time already.
Right.
You're missing a hole, though. You're missing the conservation hole, which is why we invited him tonight.
Back.
We accommodated, and I scrounged to get 4.
No, I understand that,
So
but,
that box is not checked, that it's checked
but the
before our
box
is
never got
checked.
checked the first time, you're saying?
Right, so they're
Correct.
here tonight to check their box,
But-
and then we'll proceed with the meeting. It's, in the list, it's before the Board of Selectmen had the last checkbox.
So you have to go to the Conservation Board twice?
Well, they're right here, and that's why
Well,
we
no,
did it for
no,
tonight.
no, I understand, no, but I'm just trying to understand, just quickly, that, we went to the Conservation
There
Board.
wasn't a noticed meeting, we've discussed that till it's been dead for a long time.
Right. That meeting was not
Legal.
A binding
a
meeting.
binding meeting.
That's why
They're
they
here
came
now, so
out
you have a
tonight to
binding
help.
So you have a binding meeting now, here they are.
And then at the conclusion of that, we take over.
We take over, correct.
Okay, but we're all agreement that we did comply with this.
We are not denying that you did appear before the
Perfect,
Conservation
so we
Commission.
complied.
Yes.
Okay, perfect, so it's a do-over, more or less, gotcha, okay. All right, no, but you see my point.
Mm-hmm. No,
Okay.
I understand.
So, you want me to speak afterwards to the conditions that we spoke about last week? In other words, I'm trying to check the boxes here that you gave me a condition last week. There was 3 things that you had mentioned.
Right.
So save that to the end,
I would.
okay?
Well, in doing that, you'll reduce your audience.
I'm sorry, excuse me?
In doing that, you'll reduce your audience. You'll release, this commission has a very small piece of the puzzle.
Gotcha. Well, we'll
Put
get you
that
guys
in
home
this-
for the
and
football
then-
game,
and
how's
then
that?
Then we'll be off on ours,
Perfect.
and you'll have your reduced
Yes.
audience or appearance before the board to continue your business.
I understand.
So thank you for letting us jump in here.
Well, no, but again, I just wanted to make sure everyone knew that we've already been through that checkbox.
Can I ask just a quick comment?
Good.
Go ahead, Steve.
If I remember right, and this is getting a little fuzzy, so forgive me, you guys came to the conservation meeting, but then like some issue I thought came up afterwards about whether the buffer was impacted or not, and it looks like Tom's probably gonna talk about that. So I don't think, my perspective is there may be a different issue that never really actually came up, it'll get
Right,
discussed
there,
tonight and
there was an
resolved.
issue of notice.
No, I'm saying there was an issue of
That
on the
they-
ground impact that was never discussed.
My issue was notice.
Yeah, I got yours, yeah.
And,
But
and,
just-
and thank you for bringing that
Yeah.
up. So, for Highland Farm and Forest, we went to 6 different meetings, and never once at any of those meetings, I think it's important to know, there was never a buffer infraction that was brought up. Okay?
Yeah, it came up from somewhere. No, I'm just saying
Okay.
it's mentioned. so.
Perfect. All right, I guess Tom's gonna speak to you guys.
All right, thank you very much. My name, for the record, is Tom Carr. I'm with Meridian Land Services, and I'm here tonight to represent Highland Farms Forest and Acquisitions. As you know, I'm working also with Art Siciliano, who did the septic system designs for those. I reflagged the wetlands for him and the wetlands that were missed on Mr. Cahill's property prior to these plans being initiated, and Art had those plans run back through the state and got the approvals reissued with the plans that had the wetland stamp on it, so. So before I give my presentation tonight, I just want to make a disclosure just to make sure everybody understands how I initially became involved with this project. I had done work for Mr. Cahill through his former company and my company years ago, or at some point in time, Kevin had my cell phone number, and one day this was several months ago, before I even knew this was an issue or something going on here. Kevin called and said, "Hey, Tom, I got, there's some development going on up above me, upgrading, and I have some concerns about the wetlands and potential water coming off the property." So I said, "Sure, I'll come over, have a look at it." It was Thursday, I think. I don't work Thursday afternoon. I was heading back to Weare and going home anyway, so I came by. We met, and he walked me through his property up to the back of these 2 lots, and there were wetlands on his property that weren't shown on the septic plan. I did not do any evaluation of Siciliano's wetlands. I didn't have permission to do that. It was more of a, here it is, what do you think type situation. So I advised Mr. Cahill that, you know, the wetlands on his property should be located, shown on those plans, because they do affect the developability of the lots. Again, I didn't do any evaluation of Art's delineations while I was there. It was just an informative thing. Now, when Mr. Cahill told me it was Siciliano's plans, I said, well, I'm not billing you today, Kevin, because Art's my client. I've been doing his wetlands for over 20 years now. And if there's gonna be more wetlands done or wetland re-eval on these lots, I wanna be able to do it. Art's my client, so with all due respect, today's free. And we went back to the house, had a great conversation, lovely wife, talked about gardening. And they gave me some beef, and he's an organic guy. I took that, and then about 4 weeks ago, I brought it back, because simply I didn't want an ethical conflict, that I was taking payment of some sort from both sides of the fence. So that's what that was about, Kevin.
Can I speak to that, just because that is exactly
No.
what happened? I agree
Okay.
100%, Tom.
Yeah.
and
That-
like I
that's
said
good.
last week, okay.
Thank you.
So I just wanted to disclose that. Many people already knew that. Kevin was a little confused when I brought the stuff back. I think we were both upset, and we didn't talk about it. I just said, I can't take it. I don't want it, or something, I can't remember. But it was strictly to ward off what anybody could conceive as an ethical conflict between working for both sides, and the attorney certainly understands and respects that position. So anyway, I want to start with the wetland buffer and the wetland vegetation cutting. This comes from what we call the Harris complaint. This complaint was filed months ago, and as you've heard from last week, we didn't find out about it until the last couple of weeks. So that was, we had heard that there was, you know, complaints about a wetland violation, and that they'd been turned into the DES for a wetland violation. And of course, we've all, I don't know if the Conscom has seen it, but I think all of you have, the guy who cut the lots, cut between the two over through this particular swale where the green area is marked. Now, just so you can understand the color coding on these plans, they're not on your plans, but the blue represents the stormwater infiltration trenches that we're proposing. Orange is the silt fence, and Ray, I apologize, I haven't fixed the detail yet. So the staking detail on the silt sock is not correct, and Ray's brought that to my attention. I started looking at it a few weeks ago, Ray, and the detail was too complicated. I gotta have somebody better at AutoCAD to fix it than me, so. Anyway, then the green is the area of the wetland and the wetland buffer that the clients are gonna replant. And then, of course, the yellow is the level spreader for the footing drain. And I'll go through these a little bit briefly. I know you all have seen this electronically. I hope you reviewed it. I don't want to spend 2 hours tonight explaining everything in detail. I'm going to go through it quickly, let the boards ask questions, and then you can open it up for abutters comments, whatever you'd like to do. So again, following the Harris complaint, or I would say before we even knew about the Harris complaint, we had heard through the zoning administrator, the building inspector, that there was a violation turned into the Wetlands Bureau, but these guys hadn't heard of anything from Jen Drosiak, who's our regional compliance officer. I know Jen very well. I've worked with her for years, so to resolve it, I called her up and I said, Jen, what do you know? Is there a wetland violation on Lakeview Drive in Weare? She said, no, I haven't heard anything about it. So following that, I said, well, okay, here's what happened, Jen. You know, these two lots of record. My clients unfortunately brought in a logger to clear two 1.2 acre lots or whatever they are, and rather than go out on the dirt road and cut through, he put a corduroy road down and crossed the wetland. he pulled out the corduroy road, and it's, you know, it's not perfect, but it's not what I would consider to be a wetland violation. It just, you know, should probably get replanted, and they've authorized me to do a replanting plan. And Jen told me on the phone, we wouldn't take jurisdiction over this. You know, should they have notified us? Sure, but we're not gonna take jurisdiction on a wetland violation over this, particularly if you've already got a replanting plan, because that's all we would make you do anyway. So that's what we have here with this. Now, with respect to the buffer, you know, this is all subject to interpretation. We could agonize over this forever, but, you know, when I spoke with Art Siciliano, he was very adamant that the zoning ordinance, in fact, does say you can cut 50% of the buffer within a 10-year period. And that's in the zoning ordinance, very straight. 50% of the wetland buffer on either one of these lots is not cut as of this moment. Now, if you look back on lot 31, there's not a lot of wetland buffer on this lot. Steve?
Just, sorry to interrupt you,
That's
but
okay.
you're not actually describing that correctly. It's 50% of the basal area
Basal
in the
area.
buffer.
What exactly does that mean? Because I read that and I wasn't exactly sure.
That's a
what that-
forestry term. It's the cross-sectional area of a tree measured at diameter, breast height. And so you need to add up the basal area in the buffer, and you can remove half of that. And it allows you to do a lot of things, you know, management or, and the idea was to not have ground disturbance.
Right.
You know, not like stumping, that sort of stuff, but it
Right.
allows you to remove trees.
Right.
So, you know, we had a conversation, I mean, in forestry, you know, forester could work back to the basal area through some published tables that are usually used for like timber theft, you know, that are measuring stumps. Traditionally, we measure basal area at its breast height.
Okay.
So that's where that terminology comes from. So it's not strictly half the buffer, it's half the basal area
Okay.
in the buffer.
Well, to your point, Steve, you know, the stumps weren't pulled in there, so they did cut. We don't deny that. I think we all recognize on both sides of the fence that that was unnecessary. But again, they wanted a replanting plan, that's what we provided. And it's all we would normally do, you know, in a wetland violation situation for the state. So again, you can ask questions later, but there's a planting plan on there. I've given them some options on a couple of different trees for different spots. We're throwing some high bush blueberries in there. If you recall the site, it really was a very mature forest, so there wasn't a lot of understory in there. There's very little herb layer at all and very little shrubs. So the high bush blueberries are actually something that aren't out there, and that'll enhance the wetlands and the wetland buffer. Stormwater runoff, the infiltration trenches are proposed for both the roof and the driveway. These are 2 foot deep by 2 foot wide trenches that run the length of the house. Because we have a driveway in front, assuming it's a front-load garage, this 24-foot trench is put off to the side, and the way the driveway is graded, it's super elevated to shed water that way, so that the infiltration trench would then take water coming off the front of the garage and the driveway. Again, because we're contributing with the driveway, it's not really for a 25-year storm, it's more like a 10, because we have water coming off the driveway too. These are standard practices for groundwater infiltration that we use for the DES Comprehensive Shoreland Water Protection Act permits. Deering has a conditional use permit for any development within the Deering Reservoir watershed area where you have to infiltrate stormwater. We use the same things there. And likewise, in Amherst, they have a variable buffer, 25 to 100 feet, depending on what type of wetland it is. If you're impacting that, you have to do stormwater management. Again, the same thing. We do a lot of redevelopment projects, or I shouldn't say we do the permitting for a lot of redevelopment projects around Babusick Lake, where every house is within that 100-foot buffer to the lake, and we use these all the time, and it's well received. Let's see. The last real issue, or I shouldn't call it an issue, the last point that we're trying to address with this is the footing drain outfall. And this is something that our building inspector has brought up, citing the new 2018 international building codes that the state has adopted. They have a written section, which I've paraphrased, not paraphrased, verbatim in the report that I submitted. And knowing the history of our building inspector that I've had with him personally and as a company in his former town, I reached out to Scott Tenney, who's a certified building inspector in Amherst, and he's also teaches classes on how to be a certified building inspector. So he's at the top of his group. I reached out to him and said, can you explain this to me? Here's my plan. Is this sufficient? And you probably read his report. He says it's perfect, or not, he doesn't say it's perfect, but he says it's adequate. However, in the end, it is up to the building inspector. It's because it's not a very well-written rule in those building codes. It uses the word approved all the time, but it doesn't describe what's approvable. Okay, so it doesn't say specifically what's an approvable drainage method. In Scott Tenney's view, and it says he alludes to it in his response to me, was that if the footing drain can daylight by gravity, let it go on the surface. This is what we've done for my whole career. You know, and Ray, you know that, you've been in construction a long time. It's, you know, these footing drains don't gush thousands of gallons an hour out of them. It's not a 4-inch pipe running full. You can't predict, I'll admit, you can't predict how much is water gonna come out of a foundation drain though, because you don't know what's gonna happen when you open up a foundation hole. These soils out here, if you'll recall from Siciliano's septic plans, percolate at 18 minutes per inch. That's pretty slow. That is abnormally slow. Most of our soils around here perk anywhere from 10 to 12 minutes per inch, and that's fairly standard. You know, this isn't in a porous sand and gravel aquifer with a high water table where it really is going to be a problem. These are slow perking soils, and the water is going to come out of the ground slowly. Now, I've heard some discussion out there that certain people are expecting us to install a dry well for this. Now, here's the problem with a dry well. There's an 18-inch water table out here. So if we put a dry well in the ground, it's going to interface with the groundwater table, the seasonal high groundwater table. What happens with how water flows through soil when you have, if this was a slope, we had a wetland at the bottom, and this was the top of a hill, water goes into the soil, and then it comes out of the soil at the bottom. So it's a recharge-discharge situation. So as we get down more toward the wetland, water actually wells up in the soil and discharges to the surface. So if we put a dry well in there, not only is it not going to allow water to infiltrate into the ground, it may actually fill up more than it should just by groundwater coming into the system. So the level spreader is the most appropriate way to go here to try and satisfy our building inspector's concerns about that. The nice thing about a level spreader is it does act as, to some extent, as an infiltration trench. These are shallow trenches that are about 24 feet by 6 inches deep. So they have some holding capacity in them, but they also recharge the water as it's being fed to it. So if we have a 6-inch deep level spreader and an 18-inch water table, we have at least 12 inches of soil there that's going to receive water back into the ground before it spills out. Now, what happens when it overtops? How level spreaders work? There's a detail here, and I know it's kind of hard to envision without knowing something about it. But a level spreader is designed to have, let's say your table was the level spreader. once that filled up, as it gets to the point where it's gonna breach the level spreader, it's spread out over 24 feet of that length. So it's not a point source discharge.
Well, you should have sheet flow instead of channel flow.
Exactly. It's a sheet flow situation, so once it goes out of that, it's not forming a stream, it's sheet flowing into the detritus and the woods, and the Conservation Commission's can attest to this. That's part of what a buffer is for. A wetland buffer is for some protection between cleared land and wetland, so that any surface runoff from that site will go through natural detritus, root systems, undisturbed ground cover, and that helps to infiltrate and treat before it can leave the site or get into the wetland. So I guess, I'm gonna cut to the end here. The clients are offering voluntarily to mitigate the roof and the driveway runoff. There are no state regulations or town ordinances that require that. The abutter's concerned about extra water coming off onto his property, I should say their property. They're doing something about it. And I think, like I said, these are practices we use all around the lakes in New Hampshire, and it works great. They're very, very effective, and they're easy to design and build. They're willing to recognize the wetland and buffer vegetation that was cut and replant that. I've done a replanting plan very similar to what we would do in a wetlands permit mitigation project, where it's regulated by the state. And again, the footing drain requirement, I really don't like the way that 405 is written, but that's the way it is. It gives the building inspector his own interpretation of what's gonna work and what's acceptable. I think what we've proposed is perfectly acceptable. Scott Tenney, who's a high-ranking official at the state level in the building code, thinks it's acceptable. It's a right way to do it. I would ask, as Naomi has suggested, that before we leave tonight, there were certain conditions written on the zoning approval. There certainly are 3 conditions on this plan, that being vegetation replanting, construction of the infiltration trenches, and construction of the level spreader of the footing drain, that we make a concise list of conditions precedent, which would be conditions needed to achieve the building permit, and then conditions subsequent that would be necessary to achieve a certificate of occupancy. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll turn it back to the commission and board for any questions or comments.
Thank you, Tom. One question, and then ask the commissioners to, by all means, think of any others. Is there an identifiable outlet to the wetlands in question or in play on these properties?
The wetlands, I believe that the wetland comes down here, and this wetland here, and maybe Mr. Cahill can attest to this. I think they combine on his property and go together, but I'm not sure. I remember seeing some wetland swales on his property, but I'm not quite sure how they're all attached.
Okay. So as far as you're aware, it's not immediately contributing to a named brook or
No.
stream or body
No.
of water or anything like that?
No, it's not. There's no channel around in here.
Great, thank
And
you.
when we were on Mr. Cahill's property, I don't recall seeing a channel in the swale, so.
Thank you.
Can I speak to that?
Um,
It's very well established, there is a channel that dissects our property and exits into Lake Horace. One of them, as Tom has referred to, is it's seasonal or heavy rainstorm, it discharges. The other one comes from a pond under the road. That one flows probably 80% of the year. It's a minimal flow, it's a small, very old, very well established. I mean, if you Google Earth it, you can see it. If you go to the state maps, you can see it as part of the.
So as far as you're aware, there's an intermittent flow, evidence of intermittent surface flow out of the wetlands?
And it's all very well established. It's all, so it's,
Stable.
yeah, it
Yeah.
is stable,
Good.
absolutely. But,
And you have records of the condition of that, so that you would be able to say, well, at time X, this is what it looked like?
Yeah, but it's well photographed.
It is. All right,
At this
good.
point. Can I just?
Well,
since
let me just make
Yeah.
one comment. In addition to the comments from the commission here, I would also open this up to comments from any audience members who'd like to contribute also, so, thank you. Go ahead,
Thank you.
Kevin. You had some more?
No, a lot of this, as Tom had referred to earlier, was sparked from a conversation he and I had back in March. I want to the process has been trying on all parties, but at the same time, my wife and I have had these drawings, reviewed these drawings, and our comment would be back to you at this stage that we are satisfied that the effort is being made to, of course, it's developed property, right? The uptick, a lot of the uptick's gonna be done. So, and there are small lots and we lay downhill from them, so we are gonna be impacted at some level, but that sort of goes with the fact that these were grandfathered lots and at some point it would happen. But, Tom and the team have done a great job of addressing our issues at this point. We're very comfortable. We saw these drawings as of last Friday, so, for the very first time. And for the very first time, actually knew what anybody was gonna do.
That helps, I'm sure.
Yeah.
It helps a lot, yeah.
Yeah, a whole lot. So, I'm gonna have no other comment, and thanks so much for coming out tonight, though, and giving us the audience.
I appreciate those words, absolutely.
Good. I just have one question. Has there been any kind of silt or disturbance
Wait,
coming
just
off
a question for who?
for Mr. Cahill?
Okay.
It's his
great.
property
Sure.
that this is going. Has there been any silt or anything coming onto your property from the disturbance here?
If there was, it would have been minimum, and it probably would have been done during logging, and at that time, that was done in November of last year, I think, just before. And at this point, it would be,
Right.
yeah, there isn't, like, we don't have a big lump of sand. And that's so great that there is actually erosion control as Tom has drawn it, because is where it would come from. So, yeah, no, the damage has been minimal to date.
Okay. So I'll just have comments. I know Tom from way, way, way back. I know every plan he does is absolutely the best you can do. I'm an erosion control contractor. We see this every day. And looking at these plans, if everybody had a site like this and had plans like this and was trying to develop it this way, the world would be a wonderful place.
Thank you,
Because
Ray.
I'm on sites every day, I just shake my head. And what they want us to do, I just want to walk away.
Yep.
But this site, I mean, if you do the silt fence the way it's drawn, it's away from the wetland buffer, you have a level spreader. My interpretation of the footing drain law is that too many houses were built without them, and so they enacted the law that you have to have footing drain. There's a
Right.
lot of sites where you can't have one.
Right, and
So they say put a dry well in, which is, I hate dry wells.
I agree.
So this all works. This is all gravity feed, it all works, it's away from the wetland. You have your replanting plan like you mentioned, which most people would never do.
I know.
So everything on this, in my opinion, from what I see every day in my day-to-day work, is really nice. I mean, you've gone above and beyond to make this right, you know, and I don't think there was a lot wrong with it in the first place, but you went, that's my opinion.
Thank you.
know, from sites I
Appreciate that.
see every day. And so, another little opinion, and I don't know if it's my business to say it or not, but we do a lot of silk fence work around Lake Winnipesaukee, all the lakes. And a few years ago, we developed a system where you put your silt fence in without trenching. Just put the silt fence in, stakes every 6 feet, 1 foot flat coming out on the uphill side, put an 8-inch sock on top of that flat,
Yeah.
tamp it down. We've proven that nothing gets under there. There's nothing that gets underneath.
Yeah.
You have the sock that filters out the brown water, and you have the silt fence that catches any kind of silt that might overtop the sock.
Right.
And everybody has really liked that so far, and it's easy for you to do yourself, you know, no digging. And when you pull that up, you have no ground disturbance, and we find that when you put silt fence anywhere near a wetland, you're digging through all the roots, and you're causing more damage than you're trying to fix.
I agree.
And so that's just my opinion as somebody that does this every day. But other than that, I think the plans are really good.
Thanks, Ray. Any other commission member comments?
I got a couple quick questions
Go ahead,
and
Steve.
comments and so on. So, the crossing that happened, I mean, just for everybody's information, could have actually met the BMP requirements, just they didn't do the notification. You know,
Correct.
They would corduroyed it and they pulled it back out, so I mean, that's not really an abnormal activity in forestry. So just everybody kind of knows that. I guess, you know, thinking about the wetland buffer, so, you know, this concept of basal area, so I mean, was more of the buffer actually cut or not?
What you see highlighted in green on these plans is what was cut.
That's it, okay.
That's it.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
So that's where the logger crossed between the two lots. And this is Mr. Cahill's property right here. And this is the beginning of where the crossing comes over to the other lot over here. So, you know, there's this area of buffer in here that wasn't cut. I did a calculation on that today, Steve, because I was recognizing when I was thinking about this, I had originally said we're not even close to that. Well, we are close to that on this lot. If you look at it in terms of just area impact, 45%.
That's fine. So, I mean, essentially, we're saying, because there was, you know, the thing I've been puzzled about when this all came up is there really was never like a written violation issued by the town at all, so it's just trying to wrap my head around that. And,
Right.
you know, I mean, I've no, you know, I mean, everyone should know, like, Tom was on the Conservation Commission, we, you know, some of us were on it together with him, and we've known him for a long time and have, you know, full trust in his, you know, just his concern for natural resources and wetlands, so I, you know, I've got no reason to question anything that he says, so, you know, I'm pretty comfortable with what's being proposed. It's kind of going above and beyond as far as the replanting. And the only one other thing I just picked up on the plan, and I just wanted to get an opinion on this because the ordinance is written kind of weird. The 50-foot building setback from wetland, does that apply? Because line doesn't show there.
Right, so if you look at the ordinance, Steve, the 50-foot wetland setback was exempt for pre-existing lots.
And this is a
So we did the buffer and setback when I was on with you and Andy.
Yeah.
And that was something we decided we would keep the buffer for all lots and not apply the 50-foot setback to the pre-existing lots, just because, you know, there are some small lots in town, and it was, we felt it might overburden the zoning board.
It's pretty close, but I mean, yeah, I was wondering about that, just didn't show it.
Yeah.
And then the 70, we don't show the 75 to the EDAs?
They're on Siciliano's plan. So that was another thing I wanted to mention in my presentation, was that these are intended to be supplements to Art Siciliano's approved plans. So if you look at his septic plan, there's different stuff on there, and I think he does show the 75-foot wetland setback for the leach field, because he had to move it. On this lot, he had it over here, I think, and it wasn't 75 feet from the wetlands on Cahill's property, so.
Okay, so it's all covered?
Yeah, it's all covered.
Yeah, good deal. Yeah, that's it for me. Looks good.
Can I have one last comment? And it's to Tom. Tom, I'm gonna be an advocate of how you have the foundation drain drawn now with the building department if I do a review with them, because, I agree 100%. Dry well's not gonna work there. I know where the water level is there.
Right.
So, I strongly recommend you make that recommendation too, so that we don't have him interpret that without knowing what lays below the ground, because that thing's gonna be full of water 3/4 of the time of year.
I've never liked dry wells. If you can daylight, you got a daylight.
Yeah.
And how it's been, it avoids any direct discharge the way it's done now, and I'm happy with that.
We in the water supply business call those dug wells, because you do have water, and you look at it from the other direction.
It would definitely be dug well. I
Sure.
don't know a pump out of it.
Now, all the conservation members have had a chance to weigh in, ask questions, make comments. We ask you now, is there something needed from us to
I
formalize our
believe that
review?
you guys need to form an official motion to push it to us, am I correct in
Yeah,
saying
if you're
that?
all set with the plan as presented, then you guys can be excused and we'll,
But don't they have to motion to move it to us?
Yeah. to
Is there a
recom-
sign off?
To
Is there-
recommend to the
Recommend.
selectmen that the
Right.
plan that was presented tonight
Be approved,
sufficient to address their concerns.
right, with no additional,
No comment.
Sorry.
right.
And we can throw an as discussed there, but we need somebody to make such a motion, and we need a second.
Yeah, just a clarification, I mean, is that something like a new process, because we've
Yeah,
never
so
done that?
67441 is a process that's been around for a long time.
Okay.
Just hasn't been followed, so in the springtime, we met with Laura. Laura put together a flow chart, and there's a flow chart of every step once you hit the zoning. Then you go to, planning,
Planning.
conservation, and back to us.
Is there something you could share with the
Sure.
conservation membership forward, something that we can bring ourselves up to speed also?
So Steve, I think it's very specific to this particular situation where it's a zoning approval for building on a class 6 or in Weare, a private road also.
Yep.
So it's specific to this exact situation, because as you know, the CONSCOM's not an approval board, it's a recommendation board by RSA. So you would then make a motion to recommend to the Board of Selectmen that the CONSCOM has no issues, and therefore it's okay for them to approve it.
Yeah, it just hasn't
On
come
this
up like.
Not part of the
minimal
typical,
I know,
typical
right.
subdivision
It's gotten-
process.
yeah, it's
This
gotten
whole
missed.
process has been a learning curve for Naomi and
Anybody
myself and
involved.
everybody involved. It's unfortunate it's taken this long, but I think in the end, it's been a good learning curve for all of us, and I don't think it'll ever happen again.
I don't think so either.
So, what's the exact wording?
That's what I was gonna ask, because I was gonna make the motion, but I forgot what to say.
So it's just a motion to, I mean, indicate that the Conservation Commission has no concerns with the issuance of a building permit or 2 building permits, or what are you looking for exactly? Is that all you're doing, is issuing building permits?
We're issuing the okay to apply for, it's gone for all these, and then they can apply for the building permit and further down the line. So I mean, it's just, recommend this move forward.
Yeah, just make a motion that the Conservation Commission recommend that the Board of Selectmen move forward with the final approval process by the applicant for map 102, lots 31 and 32, and that there are no further conservation or environmental concerns.
Second.
I think that's pretty good, honestly. Yeah, it's a really good one.
We got that. Scribe, are you comfortable? Any questions on our wording here? All right. Any further discussion from the commission?
Someone's got a second, all right?
Ray
Oh, you
seconded,
did?
yeah.
Did you?
Yeah, Steve made, Ray seconded. Therefore, I'll call the vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. I heard all in favor.
Could I ask the commission for one further consideration, since when the Harris complaint came in to Naomi, she had passed that on to the Conservation Commission, because that's your jurisdiction to decide, if anything should be done for that. We'd like to have some statement or something to the effect that the Harris complaint's been addressed, and maybe because we're replanting that it's a non-issue or whatever, but there was a complaint filed officially with Naomi, so that we need to have that put to bed.
Yeah, you guys had it in May. I wasn't here.
Yeah, I think we didn't have, excuse me, didn't have a meeting to address it.
You
then.
didn't have a noticed meeting, but you
Yeah.
still met.
Okay.
I don't
But
even
we-
remember that.
I don't remember the specific complaint, but I do remember
We've dealt
some
with
email.
we've dealt with
came
3
in
or
about
4 over the last year.
It was very brief, very
Then we
brief.
just pushed it out
Do
to
we
the
have a-
next meeting.
I
Well,
was
do-
gonna ask if
Well,
we could wait till-
nevertheless, it was filed. We did discuss it tonight.
If there's a way we can spend 5 minutes looking at it, I'd be comfortable with somebody motioning to that effect.
Yeah.
But if we don't have a way to review it now, Tom, I don't know how we can speak to it, because we're pretty foggy on,
I can
what was presented.
Got one copy of it here, if that helps.
Okay.
I asked, Mike did the minutes for May.
Yeah.
Was I there?
We'll find out. I wasn't.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Do you need the password?
All right, so on the Town of Ware complaint form dated April 29th, 2022, regarding map 102, lot 31, we have a location of complaint, Lakeview Drive, owner's name, Highland Farms and Forest Acquisitions. Complainant, Janet Harris of 13 Lakeview Drive. The complaint is a wetland vegetation without ground disturbance at 25 feet, parentheses, buffer zone, should be inspected for compliance. This zone appears to have been infringed by the developer of lot 31.
And the date on that?
The form was filled out or dated April 29th.
So this addresses it. That's done.
So, yeah, I'd like to make a motion, I guess I'll take a stab at it. So, I mean, first off, I think, we're just an advisory committee, so everybody's gotta understand that. I mean, this, essentially, if it was an enforcement action, it would still go to the, the building department. But my motion would be that, the Conservation Commission has heard testimony from a licensed wetland scientist of, very good reputation that has said there's approximately 45% buffer disturbance, which is all within acceptable range of the ordinance, and that there's replanting, so that while it was a valid concern, there was no violation that occurred, and there are steps being taken to,
Mitigate.
well, not even really mitigate, but they're doing more than, going above and beyond, really. So just steps to improve the habitat in the buffer, and that, that's satisfactory, and the commission recommends to the building department, the selectmen, that no further action be taken.
Is that a motion?
Yeah, that's a motion.
Second.
Does that satisfy your concern?
Yes, thank you.
All right, so the gist of it is Conservation Commission recognizes that the Harris complaint was a valid concern, but evidence shows it's been adequately addressed, and we recommend no further action on the complaint.
Oh, and that there was actually, there's no violation there. And from a wetland scientist, we need to capture that you have a certified wetland scientist of good, standing and reputation that has calculated that there was no violation, and that they've even taken, they've gone above and beyond by doing some planting to really restore that impacted area, which is allowed in the first place. So that was kind of the gist of it, but I think it's really important that we say that there was a wetland scientist that reviewed it.
Oh, Scribe, do we have that captured?
YouTube.
Gonna-
YouTube with closed caption works well.
I hope so. All right, we've got a motion made and seconded. Do we have any further discussion? Concerns from the audience on this motion? There being none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstention? All in favor?
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it.
Be excused.
Anything, anything else we can do for y'all tonight?
We appreciate it.
All
Thanks for
right,
coming
There
down.
being none, I need one more motion.
Motion to adjourn the conservation
Second.
Sure you don't wanna make our
at
motion?
9.
There being
Probably here at
no
11.
further discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
We adjourn the conservation portion at exactly 9 o'clock.
Alrighty, good night, everybody.
Thanks a lot, you guys.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.
This plan.
Oh, I think we got one.
Don't trip.
No, just kind of maze back.
Yeah, go ahead. Thank you, guys. Thanks.
Thanks, Steve.
Good luck, guys.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Andy.
Appreciate it,
Yeah,
Ray.
yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Dance floor over here.
I know, right? Plenty of real estate now.
Thanks, Andy.
All right, so Selectman Van's gone to visit the little boy's room. We'll be returning.
Nice.
So we'll just take a moment.
For the World Wide Web to know.
Okay.
I guess I'm resting our case.
Okay.
If the board has further questions, we're happy to answer them, but I think we've satisfied our part with the planning board, commission, zoning board. I'm hoping that the planning board has gotten you their minutes or comments. I don't know if they have, but we're ready to hear from the selectmen whether it's okay to put this forth to a building permit.
Okay. John, well, Dick, I think you had the stuff from last meeting that we spoke of, correct?
Right, so basically all I was trying to do was,
Would you mind coming up to the
Yeah, would you mind
microphone,
coming up to the mic, please? Yeah.
please? The 3 people that watch us on YouTube can't hear you.
Hey, you had 34 tonight.
Oh, 34, okay.
Yeah.
so basically I was just trying to follow up, to basically tell the board that, you know, we went and saw Katie. And what Katie said for, condition 3 and 4, that's something, and I hope I'm saying this right? 3 and 4.
Just refresh our memories on 3 and 4.
Oh, okay, so, 3 and 4 is the applicant, shall take the necessary actions, complete the town planning board subdivision regulations of the driveway permit. So, Katie told me that's part of the application that we turned in, and she said, that form will be signed, I'm assuming, with Romeo. Okay?
Okay.
So, you guys had said that was one of the things that we couldn't,
The zoning board had said that they needed.
They requested, right.
That did not come from us, that came from the zoning
That
board.
came from the ZBA. These are all ZBA requirements that were just reiterated by Selectman Van.
I read direct out of their minutes.
no, I appreciate it, but I guess I don't know how to answer it other than I went and asked Katie how I do that to satisfy you folks, and she said, well, we can't satisfy it until you actually start building. It's kind of one
That's
of those
part of the
oxymorons.
process.
Yeah, that's part of the process, yep.
All right, so so
We're
number,
just, again, we were just reiterating what they had put on.
right, but
honest.
we're trying to get a vote tonight, so I just
No,
wanted
I
to show.
understand that,
Okay,
yep.
okay, so, and then it said, number 4 is the applicants shall be required to take necessary actions to complete the 911, which I've been told, I forget the gentleman's name, that same thing, we can't have that, obviously, until we have
Driveways.
that.
Yep.
Okay? So, again, we did go, we talked to Katie, she said that's what needs to be done. Let's see, number 1 was, the posting of a sign. I just sent Naomi a picture. So I went out and did some investigations on Sunday, with Naomi telling me to go see a sign, that's the sign.
Okay. And that's at the end of the road.
No, we've done it, we've done it
That's the
twice.
sign he needs to order.
Right, so we actually did it twice. When we went to the site walk, one of the planning board members said, take the first one down, it wasn't quite the right verbiage.
Right.
We put a second one up. What's it say now? So it's pretty close to that. Is that what that one says?
It says not a town maintained road, pass at your own risk.
So I guess you gotta put no risk on it. So that's sign.
It's understood what you have put up now, though.
Right, she's given me the picture, I went and visited some of the town roads, so we got that. So I guess that's the only thing that, I think, Michael, did you call the state and ask them? So it takes a little while to get it.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I
that,
realize that.
okay,
As long as it's on order, we're good.
perfect. And then the other condition that, you folks had said was the form that needs to be
Yeah.
signed.
So there's an agreement and release form for private roads that was created by Steve Buckley back in the, God, it's been a while. So it's an agreement release for the private road, and it just says, and I'll let his attorney look at it, there's one for each lot. And basically what it does is, it's gonna be filed at the registry of deeds. And it says, it talks about the book and page and Lakeview Drive, and he can have a single-family residence. And then it says the town shall allow the owners to construct a single-family resident pursuant to a building permit issued by the town. And then it says the town neither assumes responsibility for maintenance, including snow plowing and salting, or liability from any damages resulting from the use, Owners shall be responsible for maintaining access to the subject property and does hereby forever release and discharge the town, its officers, agents, and employees from the obligation of maintaining Lakeview. There's a lot more to that, but then it tells them that the owner assumes responsibility for transporting any children to the nearest regular bus stop, and that the owners assume responsibility for maintenance and repair of Lakeview Drive as private road, as may be required for his, hers, or their own use and convenience. And what it is, it's a document that's always been signed by the selectman and the owner, and then it's notarized and then sent to the registry. But, there's one for each lot. I just typed them, and she can look at them,
Are they identical?
except for the lot numbers, yeah, pretty much.
So once she reviews it and it gets signed, you folks go to Nashua and have it
Yes.
recorded?
Because she'll have to have you sign it, and then bring it back here, and I can notarize the selectmen's signatures, and then we can send it.
Okay.
So then, because a
So-
lot of times things get left in someone's lap and
No.
never gets to the registry.
No, I appreciate
So
that.
if we do it, we know it got there.
Logistically, can we review this and get it back to you so you guys have it for next week's meeting? Would that
Yeah, that's fine.
Well, can we just do a conditional?
Yeah,
based
so
on-
Yeah, absolutely.
Then
But
they
you
don't
guys have
come
to
back
sign
us
it
anymore.
anyway, so
Yeah,
you
we have
don't
to
need
sign it
to
anyway.
just let her
Well, yeah,
know.
but that means they don't have to come back to us.
No, right.
Yep.
Yeah, that's, I think that's the,
Goes in the
yeah.
sign box. Yeah,
They're just gonna
Right,
drop it.
they're gonna drop
not
it
coming
off.
back.
the sign box.
So I think those are the two things that we have not complied with, I guess is the best way to say it. One would be the sign that, again, we're getting done, but.
You're in the process of complying.
Okay,
Correct.
and then Naomi's piece of paper that releases you guys from liability.
The release, yeah.
So other than that, that's, I believe, what we discussed last week. Obviously, Tom and Kevin and everyone has, agreed on the condition of going back to the conservation, so that, and the only other thing, I think that was it. That was all that was mentioned. So, I guess I don't have anything else to say. Hopefully, everybody's happy. Sounds like everyone is. I think we've done our obligation. Sorry it took so long to get the obligation to Kevin and stuff, but Tom put a lot of time into it, so,
No, and it shows.
okay.
We appreciate that.
So, as mentioned earlier in the evening, I think Tom laid out, basically, we talked about precedent and subsequent conditions. And, I think to make it clear and to smooth sail it to the building department, I believe we should at least make it known from here. Conditions precedent would be, I would say, the plantings.
Stay here.
It says right on this, if you read did you guys read this one?
Yeah.
It just says that there are 3 parts to the plan that need to be reviewed and approved, so the building inspector can be told to issue a permit for the construction once certain conditions precedent are completed, and Tom outlined them very well with 1, 2, and 3. So those would be the precedent, and then the subsequent ones, as he laid out,
I think
all come together.
With this plan, certainly the infiltration trench and the footing drains are conditions subsequent, because they can't be done until the house is built.
Right.
The
So it's just
wetland-
the pre-planting.
The planting probably should be done in the fall. I've done a lot of restoration plans. We prefer to do it in the fall because we put them in, the plants go dormant. They have the winter to get happy with their soil environment and then the seasonal water table comes back, and then they're told to grow by Mother Nature, and they're not just plunked in the spring and good luck.
Yeah.
So fall is a better time to plant trees in particular, so I would suggest that for this plan, the planting is conditions precedent. The drainage systems are conditions subsequent. And then with the zoning, I think I haven't really had a chance to look at all of these, but I would think condition number 2 would be condition precedent.
Yeah. Which is a liability disclaimer.
No-
Is that
Condition 3 would be condition precedent, driveway permit. I think condition 1, the sign Nobody's gonna be living in that house until a CO, so I think the sign would be conditioned subsequent. And I think condition 4, the 911, would also be conditioned subsequent. Those are all necessary for certificate of occupancy, but not necessarily for a building permit. That's my suggestion, so I'll leave it up to you to discuss. And
I would lean to agree. I don't have any comments really. Does the rest of the board members?
Could I address the board as a Kevin Cahill, 697 Reservoir Drive?
If you do it up there.
Sure. I would agree with Tom 100% on the driveway, just going forward for future, is just because everything is related to where the driveway location is. So that has to get established right away, because for some reason, I don't think there ever is a reason that is gonna be a problem. But if the DPW director comes in and says, no, there's not a good sight line, you have to move that, then the entire plan is no.
that's condition precedent.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
condition
agree.
precedent, and he did say that.
Yeah, yeah, I almost think, yeah, I almost think it, as it was written in the ZBA, that would be step one before,
Step one
even
before
we
the rest
start
of it.
drawing all this up.
The signs and everything else, yeah.
Yeah, or establishing, putting all this work in and have to try to move it would be
Right.
almost
Yeah.
impossible. So that's more for us, not for you guys.
But that is condition precedent. We
Yeah.
agree with that, Kevin.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about the driveways myself.
Yeah, either way, but no, I'm talking about future down the road, the learning curve part for us.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
So, if you don't mind, the attorney and I have been back and forth here on the side. What I did is I developed something for the board to sign based on the review for tonight and the approval for tonight, talking about the vegetation replanting in the fall. And I'm actually just gonna do the letter September per the 9/22/22 letter. That's number one. This is all under precedent. Number 2 is condition 2 of the ZBA about list liability disclaimer. And the third one is condition number 3, which talks about the driveway
Driveway permit?
per the ZBA. So then we move on to the bottom that says condition subsequent. There's the stormwater infiltration per the 9/22 letter. Footing drain outfall per the 9/22 letter. Condition number 1, which is the sign, the class 6 road sign per the ZBA's condition 1, and condition 4 being the E911, which is part of the driveway whole package before CO anyway, and that's for ZBA. Does that capture everything? She was happy with it? So here you are.
I was gonna say, we're gonna
I'm
need-
letting you guys
we're
sign
gonna
it,
need
and then it's clear. This afternoon to put it together, trying to figure it out to make it easy.
Okay, well, we're gonna try and
There was no argument of
hack
who's.
together a motion. Does the board have any other comments, concerns?
Thank you for your patience and
I'd-
letting us get this taken care of properly.
I would like to make a comment. I think, and this is, because we had the meeting with our legal counsel earlier this year, it flipped our process upside down. And unfortunately, you guys as a group have really taken the brunt of it. And we apologize as a board and a town to you guys. I think that you guys have gone above and beyond. Tom's, has gone above and beyond. You guys have been more than accommodating. And again, we as the town appreciate that. We've kept it calm, we've kept it cool, and we've kept it very professional. And the town, we appreciate that. We really do. So again, thank you from the board. So I'm gonna move that we grant the approval to the building department from the Board of Selectmen and subsequent commissions and boards for tax map 102-31 and 102-32 with the following conditions. Conditions precedent will be the vegetation replanting in the fall per the 9/22/22 letter. The liability disclaimer from the ZBA, condition number 2, and condition 3 from the ZBA is the driveway. Again, those are all conditions precedent. Condition subsequent would be the stormwater infiltration, per the 9/22/22 letter. The footing drain outfall per 9/22/22 letter. Condition 1 of the ZBA, which was the
Oh, sign, sorry, did I not
sign.
finish it?
And condition 4, which was the
E911.
E911, both from the ZBA. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in,
Discussion.
discussion.
Question regarding the plantings in fall. The plantings in fall, is that going to be post-construction or pre-construction? I just want to specify, I want to make sure it's going to be fall of '22
I'm
or
quite
fall
certain
of
it's-
after.
I'm quite certain it's this fall.
Okay.
Okay, so fall of 2022.
The objective here is for them to be able to get the building permit.
Yep.
So
I just wasn't sure if it was better to plant that post-construction or now. That's,
Well,
just for
the
clarification
thing
of
is,
this.
Mr. Van, is if we don't do it this fall, and they get a client that says, build me a house, and they're done in the middle of
And
July,
that control kind of goes.
then we're in trouble.
Yeah.
Because if it's a dry,
It's gonna help Kevin be, kind of do the
right,
too.
so, you know,
That's why I wanted clarification, so we can make sure it's documented on here, so there's no question going down the road.
Michael and I have had discussions that we want to get this done this fall.
Okay.
So I would recommend amending that to fall of 2022.
So amended. Still seconded?
Second.
Okay.
No other discussion.
Moved and seconded. Any other discussion? There being none, call a vote. All in favor?
Yes.
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 Opposed? Selectman Cahill can abstain, right?
He's sitting over here.
He's
so
sitting over here,
doesn't
so.
count.
He recused himself.
He recused himself, so he didn't get a vote at all, so. Okay, very good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you,
Much
folks.
appreciated.
Thank you, guys. You guys can sign that, though.
Well, we can't we?
I'll probably have Rick drop this by once it's all signed.
Yeah, I'm not here on Tuesdays. Yeah. He should know that. He knows my schedule better than anybody. Okay, so.
Welcome back.
Casey,
So-
return.
Thank you all, have a good night.
Yeah,
too.
thank you.
I've been gone, but.
I think all we've got left is Benji. Hey.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Like a toothache.
Win the war. Win the
All right, Rick.
war.
And
Thanks.
signed.
I don't want any.
They don't vote.
I don't want any.
All right.
I don't want any.
On the budget.
So Benji's here to finish in his public part.
Yep, perfect.
All right. Ben, I'm gonna use
Thank
the
you, Ben,
bath-
for your
I'll be right
patience
back.
in this process.
No problem.
You guys don't realize the mics are on. Okay.
Okay. All right.
Did we lose somebody?
Yeah,
Kevin just left.
Okay. Left?
Well, no,
Thank you.
All signed.
did the same
Go.
thing you did.
Okay.
I don't want to say. That's what they
Welcome back, Benji.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Almost time for bed.
No.
Well, wait, well, I guess I can hand out papers. I just need to give an update there. Kinda heard about Public Works and the bridge and stuff. I'll be paving High Rock here
Okay.
when they come to town. No real rush for me. It's graded up and ready to go.
Oh, yeah, forgot to mention, while we're waiting for Mr. Cahill to come back, talking with some of the residents on my road, they're very happy, and they wanted me to express their thanks for the work that was done by you folks and by the contractors R&D Paving for such a good job.
Tell them, thank you. We'll get shoulders on as soon as High Rock's paved, because I want to rent the machine,
Okay.
do them all, so.
How are we doing with the roadside mower?
Oh, it's still broke down.
Still?
Yeah, it's got a motor issue and,
Engine motor or
yeah, I
hydraulic
think
motor?
it blew a head gasket, but I ain't,
What kind of engine is it?
Ford. New Holland. So, I don't think there's anything really to tell about Public Works I haven't talked about, I guess, in public anyway. Oh, well, the little truck came, I have that, possession of that.
Just the cabin chassis.
Yeah, I don't know, Fairfield, I'm getting along with him just as good as I thought I was gonna. They're supposed to have all my equipment, and he's looking for it, and I ain't heard back, so I'm guessing he don't. But we got the truck, we're supposed to get that till the very end of the year, we got it already. The big truck wasn't supposed to come in until first quarter of next year, and they telling me I'm gonna see it first of October, but that's in a couple days, so.
Believe that when I see it.
We want to see it, but yeah, well, it's still, we can still
Still
hope.
ahead of time, so, the transfer station, I don't know if you guys been up there lately, Lee and a couple other guys have painted all the gates, even my front gate going in, trying to spruce it up. All the New Hampshire Beautiful signs that myself and Kevin picked out finally came in, the guys hung them up. Whatchamacallit committee there, joint loss, had some, just little things, painting the edge of the curb, fixing the steps where the salt's eating away.
Yep.
We've done all that, they're happy, so. So I just want to talk about transfer station real quick and been compared to, we've compared ourselves to one other town north of us, being Hillsborough, quite a bit because the population's similar. I finally did get a chance to go visit every time it seemed like I was gonna go. Something come up, and so I finally got to go. Of course, people up there are very nice and
Yeah.
and everything, just like you guys said they were. I want to thank them and appreciate it. What I got, what I took away, I've visited a lot of transfer stations over the years since I've worked. I've worked here 20 years. I've gone to lots of meetings and know lots of transfer station foremans, and I've kind of always said all along that every town does things just a little bit different and works whatever works for them, because we're a public works. We have the capability to send the staff member up there in the absence of somebody. We have the capability to send a piece of equipment up there, where some towns that don't share that don't have that option. I did hear when I went up there that, a comment was made, public works directors can't keep as good of a eye on things and markets and things as somebody that just has to worry about transfer station. I guess took a little bit back by that. I feel I have my thumb on it fairly good, and, got network with people that if I don't know the answer, I call and ask, and when Matt was up there, Matt was right on it, so I think we do pretty good. What I took away from it was I wouldn't change how we do business. They run usually 4 employees, sometimes 5. We run 2, sometimes 3. And so anyway, we took the tonnages in for 2020. The reason we picked 2020 is because there couldn't really be a dispute about population, because that's when the census was. I am going to say that I know our transfer station took in a good 200, 300, 400 ton extra, because that was the year COVID hit and everybody was home. But I'm going to guess Weare was no different than any other town, right? So if we had that problem, everybody else probably had that problem. And the reason I put this together wasn't so much for tonight's meeting. However, I did just want to share it with you guys. I'm working, we're going to work with the CIP. I started working Jack Dearborn on us, and just informing the CIP committee, and then of course the rest of you, what I want to do in the future of the transfer station, what we're looking at for the future of the transfer station. Like to get, after this next hauling contract's up, maybe look into our own tractor, revamp the compactor, put some roofs over the paper, and
What's the cost of a new tractor?
That'd be-
Approximate, if you were to.
I'd go for a
today.
used one, you're probably looking at 80 grand. But, so I looked into that, and so we did kind of want to, compare ourselves and see how we were doing, and so I took in the tonnages for recycling and trash for 2020, and we're right there where we ought to be. If you look at the white, the 2020 in white, not the gray section underneath, we have the overall tonnage and then the per capita weight of each person. You can see that there. In the gray, if you remember when we started the furniture program, I pulled a number out of my hat. We took a survey of how many pieces of furniture we took in prior to charging. Before we ever took any in, I says, I think we're going to get around 400 tons of furniture out of the trash, not in the demo. I've had a hard time
Just out of the
explaining
trash.
that, because I don't feel like explaining things good enough sometimes, out of the trash. It was kind of a random number, but I did put some effort into it. So we started looking at the numbers and said, we did a 12, so for the 2020, you can see the numbers there. It's just to show ourselves how we're doing. But the A and B at the bottom of the gray was a comparison for 22 versus 21 in a 12-week period. 12-week period, I don't have the exact weeks, but in a 12-week period, since we've been charging for furniture and putting them in the demo trailer out of the trash, we've taken in approximately 67 tons of furniture in the demo. Wow. We don't really know that number because we don't really know what that stuff weighs, right? It's numbers that we
Approximates.
have averaged.
But that, it's up for, because of.
So we don't know how many tons we really took, but we know the numbers that we've taken in because we take a tally every week what we charge and we come up with the number. So we're guessing it was around 67 tons. I had said, so I said, Mass said, yeah, geez, Benji, said 400, so we've taken in 16, which is gonna be 67 tons in a year. Let me correct myself, right? 67, so geez, Benji, that's a long ways from the 400 you said. I said, well, I said all along that the week we started charging, our furniture more than got cut in half. So that was the avoidance. Said that along, said, well, we're still only half there. I think we were even getting more than what we thought, and we don't really know what the stuff weighs again. Well, we took the same 12-week period, the same weeks that we took and added up the tonnage of furniture that's going into the demo, and seen what our trash has been less than, and that same 12 weeks are 101 tons less this year than we were last year, in that same 12-week period, which comes up in a year's time, 404 tons.
Yeah.
It's pretty close to
Right on
that
the number.
416 that I said. Whether it's furniture or not, I don't know. In a year's time, we'll see. So the graph down below, the blue is what, at the very top of the blue striped lines is roughly where we were. And then if we take out that 404, hopefully that's where we'll be next year. And then the demo is where we were, increase it by the 70 tons that we actually took into the demo, and that's where we'll be there.
Do you know where we are right now, Ben? What, how much we've sent to incinerators?
I don't have that number with me, no, but we did have that number to get this 101 tons. I just didn't put that on this graph.
Okay.
But I think your point here is the fact that when you move it down to the gray box, which is the proposed number against 2020, per capita, we're really not that far off now. We're getting a lot closer.
And I think we need a year's time to see. I have.
Absolutely, this is all guesstimates.
I'm gonna show you something in this, and then I'll give it up, but I have other, right, so you look at, we're pretty close, we're pretty close in the population, and you look at our numbers versus the other towns' numbers, and they're not a whole lot different. It about follows with the number of people,
Almost.
and so we're not doing any different or better. I mean, I looked at stuff, right, so we do loose paper, they do loose paper. We have an open top, we pack with a backhoe, they have a compactor roll-off. They're expensive. Hollis uses them. They're getting 15 tons. I shipped mine, I got 19.3 out of the last trip.
Can I ask one quick question?
Yeah.
You mentioned the numbers. Hillsborough in 2020 was 8105, Weare was 9092.
Where is that?
I'm sorry, your
Population.
Your populations,
Population.
up at the top, in the top rows.
Got you.
How many people per town?
Got you. That was the
You-
census number.
And that's okay. The numbers you're getting from Hillsborough, those are the transfer station numbers that they're putting out, correct?
Right.
Does that population include the town of Deering, because Deering uses Hillsborough?
Right.
So it's
It does.
80, it's
Okay.
8105 through the transfer station.
Right.
Them and Windsor.
Okay, so that's including all three towns
Everybody that
using
goes
that.
to the
Okay,
transfer
just want to make
Okay.
that clear. Okay, thank you.
So,
Hey, Ben, can I just point something out,
Yep.
just as we look at the chart, just for, as you look at the demo number is interesting.
yes, it is.
It's higher in Hillsborough, that area.
There's 200 ton there.
But again, that's a revolving account for us, so.
It is, and I don't know, so I went up there, I was there probably, I don't know if I was there an hour, 45 minutes. Wasn't much traffic, I noticed that. Love to put a car counter in. I know a lot of the trash differences, there is a million dumpsters in Deering and Hillsborough. Like
There's also a lot more
everybody in the-
commercial in Hillsborough too, is there not?
There is, but this is residential, so, you know, but I think every other residence in the town of Deering has a Naughton dumpster. You know, you can't prove it, but when you go on a
see it.
Tuesday to our transfer station, and you can't walk across the street, and you go to a Tuesday to someone else's, and
It's a ghost
you
town.
drink a cup of coffee in between cars coming in, it's obvious that the traffic isn't there.
Right.
Yep.
Where it is, why it is, I don't know, but 3 of the vehicles that came in were dump trucks with demo, and the demo was
Yeah.
paint cans and all sorts of, so I don't know, you know, that's what I mean, we all do things a little
When you
different.
go anywhere, right?
Having over
So-
over a year period is gonna be a lot more telling.
And I wanted to look, you know, they bail aluminum cans, I heard, and I've heard a little bit about that from other transfer station forums, NRA even, you know, why don't you bail your cans? I said, because it's labor intensive.
Yeah.
So, you know, I've heard everything from their, Hillsborough foreman told me he thought they were worth 50% more. Heard people say they were 3 times more, so I finally called, right? I
Yep.
have no intentions of doing it, but I finally called. NRA, that's who we send them through. NRA reached out to 2 vendors that we bid between, that is, Schnitzer's in Concord and Harding Metals in Northwood. Harding Metals, baled versus loose, was the exact same money to the penny. And Schnitzer's was 9 cents a pound more for loose. So why anybody bails aluminum cans, I don't know. I'm not gonna bail aluminum cans. That puts that to bed, for me. But,
Numbers are there.
so, anyway, and the last thing, I think when you go to the voters, this is the, and while I was waiting for you guys, I realized I only had 1 copy, so I went and used the copy machine, and obviously I'm not qualified, so it came out sideways, but I think you can read it all. When you go to the voters, the only thing they care about is what it's costing them. And I'm cautious about saying it, because certainly I'm not picking on any other towns. We're comparing ourselves to see where we are, right? So we use some neighboring towns, and Hillsborough that we're comparing ourselves to. And I wanted price per resident of what the transfer stations are costing, and there's nobody even close to us. Not even close. So, I thought all along that we might be the place that other people ought to copy instead of copying them. Now I do. I will explain the Hillsborough Deering thing. I want to say first that getting the exact data is awful tough. I have the exact data for Weare because I went to Beth and Beth gave me
Yeah, we live
exact
it.
data, right?
Yeah.
But the town of Deering writes the town of Hillsborough an annual check for $120,000, or this year that we compared to, for $120,479. They show that in their revenue side. Town of Ware's revenue is aluminum cans, steel cans, steel. That's all the revenue we have. I believe their demo, I asked the foreman, he wasn't really sure, but he said it wasn't a revolving fund, but would be for the finance lady. If that's the case, their demo money is revenue too, then if it's not a revolving fund. So that makes their number go up even higher, but I weren't trying to make it look like, you know, wasn't trying to cut anybody down. So I just know that 120,479. So we took that check out, we also took the population out to be fair. Couldn't take that, that'd really make the number off, right? And that's the per capita, best you can tell with the information that's made public. So I think we do all right, it's always room for improvement, always, and,
So Ben, can I just for clarification for me?
yes.
So as I'm looking at the chart,
The one I just gave you, or that little bar graph chart there.
this one,
The one you just gave us.
Gotcha.
yeah. So New Boston total revenue was 34,000 for the year?
Best we could tell, and don't have a great breakdown online to look. And that was the total town revenue. So I'm not positive. Again, we just had to go by what was made
Public.
Okay.
So,
And those, even with those assumptions, I mean, that number would be I'd be very surprised that that's all that came
I
out.
would too, for the whole town even. That doesn't sound right, but that's the best it could.
Yeah, well, I mean, we can make a phone call to find that out, but that number, and then when you go across, you have per capita, and it's Hillsborough per capita at the end of the day was 3814. Is that right?
Yeah, with Deering's 120,000 check in there,
Yeah. And then, a little bit confusing, but then down the bottom, if we run very similar numbers to that Hillsborough line, they're at 3814, we're at 4159. So there is somebody that is and that's close enough to me. I'm not making it picking stuff apart, because I don't believe, like you say, I don't know how the numbers are generated, right? Like what they include for overhead, I mean, are they charging equipment time? Did they break their time hours down? Who knows, right? So.
I just was trying to take in apples to apples, and it's very tough, but Hillsborough was easiest to compare to with that because they actually got a decent breakdown of because they bail most stuff, so it actually is a decent breakdown online of the recycling numbers. So our revenue for the transfer station is recycling only. That 120 isn't a revenue.
No.
It isn't a revenue. That isn't comparing apples to apples. That doesn't show what kind of.
Breakdown that 120
That
does.
isn't showing any recycling. That's just a check. We get to drive to your transfer station. Our residents get to drive to your transfer station. Here's a check for 120 to do that.
Yeah.
So that's not revenue. That's not the same revenue.
Right.
So in my
It's not
opinion, that
apples
should
to
be
apples revenue.
taken out. In turn, we took the population out because we left the population in there. And of course, I would have made that number bigger.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but it's not revenue. That's not the same. If you take it out and just take the recycling numbers on that other sheet, that's us.
So, I mean, again, and greatly appreciate this, we're not as far off as we once thought we were.
Right.
Is there room for improvement? Always. But are we drastically off? No.
And I didn't ever think we were, but I never, sometimes you need to just look and say, oh, maybe, and look, and you go and look at how other people do things, and sometimes pick things up, and I like how we are operating, I guess. The way we ship things with the minimal manpower.
Oh, it's definitely, the manpower is definitely different.
Is what, it's, there's still numbers that you just don't know where they go. I know that some information's hard to get, but as far as the trash tonnage and stuff, I know that Deering also, on top of paying them this much money, Deering also writes a check to Wheelabrator for 27% of the trash. So is that 27% off their number? I don't know. I couldn't get a hold of anybody to ask that question. So, anyway, that's all I got.
Can you just enlighten us on the history and how we get to taking in John Stark's trash?
We take in, and I'm not done researching that either.
Okay.
Because I won't want to know. We took a little survey of how many times a week they come in, and I get busy grading and stuff, and I didn't get that from him. But I want to know how many trips a day they come in. I believe it's just kitchen trash. It's
Okay.
not the entire school trash.
Okay.
Do they recycle, do we know? Or is it just,
They have in the past, and I didn't realize they're coming in as often as the guys just recently told me they were, so.
Yeah.
I'm gonna look now, because if it's all the time, we ought to be splitting it with Henniker. If it's truly a lot of trash, they come in a little 1 ton, a few times a week. It's not a packer, it's not the whole school's trash. I believe it used to be the kitchen trash, which is usually soup cans and stuff. When I worked up there, the girls that brought it in recycled it all.
I'm wondering if that ought to be commercial.
Well, I'm gonna look into that more before I get on John
Yeah, I
Stark.
can say, let him look into it, and let's get the nitty gritty before we make any decisions on it.
They've always done fine. So
Right.
Now, these other towns that we're comparing to, their commercial hauling, do we know what their fees are, and do we know how much commercial hauling gets brought into them?
No, I didn't get that far.
No, it's just base revenue, base.
I'm just wondering,
where are we at, just the hauling fee alone, where are we at compared to other towns? Are we on par with everybody? Are we high? Are we low?
I don't know.
Because Naughton tugs Hillsborough, right? If
They
I remember
pull
correctly?
Hillsborough,
Yeah. Just from my asking, any commercial guy that comes into either New Boston and/or Hillsborough, they all go over to scale.
Oh, yeah. Scale.
They all go to scale.
And they pay the transfer station
They pay the transfer station.
for the municipal trash?
It's because most of it's mixed. That's why they have to go across the scale.
Oh.
True, that'd be, I don't know about that one.
Well, Hillsborough last year netted over the scale, like you say, the revolving count. I don't know how it all works. I mean, this happened to keep it balanced. But that demo put them added $56,000 to revenue.
Right, because okay then, so you take that number out, our number really looks good compared to them.
But what they're doing is that their municipal trash is haulers and their demo going over the thing netted them, after their cost, an additional $56,000.
Yeah.
Probably pays for the scales right there.
Well, that's how the scale gets paid for. That's where it ends up, because it just takes, and they're only, I think they're only charging 6 cents a pound, where New Boston's charging 10.
Yeah, I think that,
Hillsborough's very-
that's something we'll never get a set of scales can look, but it was always the consensus of the town and taxpayers, any public hearing, that the demo was supposed to pay for itself and not
Right.
make money.
Yeah, I don't, and that's someday I'm gonna have to get a clarification on, so what happens if it doesn't, right? Like, just to say,
Well, that's,
Well, I think
again,
if it goes in, see, coming out of a budget, you can do that. You can make a little, the revolving fund, you can't.
Right.
But that's what I mean on this per capita. I actually believe everybody else's numbers, with the exception, I don't believe New Boston's either, to be honest, at 34, just the best I could get. The other ones, I don't believe that number is as high as it ought to be on there for them.
Right.
Because if the demo money is going into the revenue line, then that isn't the same as ours either. I was
No.
trying to get apples to
We're
apples.
we're structured
Aluminum
differently.
yeah,
cans, tin
it's
cans.
definitely not going in the recycling revenue
So-
line. The other thing that Hillsborough does, which is to me is a huge one, is they don't recycle glass. The glass goes into their incinerator. So again, it makes it so hard to apples to oranges, right? I mean, how do you, that glass is heavy.
Yep. Yeah, I was gonna measure my pile before I came and I didn't, because there's 2 years worth, so it'd been hard anyway, and see how many tons of glass I think we take in, because we take a lot.
take a lot.
But
Yeah,
it's,
it's very, I mean, I
it-
I
we are-
commend you just because digging into this stuff, of course, light bulbs go off, right?
Right.
Yeah. And that's what's important.
Our 83,000 in revenue is what we took in the recycling center.
Right.
That is what, and I don't think anyone else, really hit that number for recycling. Ours is
do well.
recycling. A lot of towns don't do revolving funds. I don't know why. I didn't know that till
Yeah.
I got to
Till you started
looking
looking into it, yeah.
Right, exactly. So we should applaud the citizens for
Yeah,
getting that number,
absolutely,
with 83,000.
Yeah,
Yep,
Yeah.
so,
awesome.
Did you want non-public at the end?
yeah, I don't think we're done talking anyway, were we?
No.
You had one
I-
other thing.
Are you all set with your DPW updates?
Yeah, unless you guys have questions.
No, I think we're good. All right, I'm gonna move that we go into non-public under RSA 91A3, Rome numeral 2, A and C. Second, moving seconded, all in favor, roll call?
Yes.
Yes, and we will be adjourning afterwards.
All right, so you gotta give me a minute.
Yep. Thank you, everyone.
You guys turn the light
Switch.